Me when I lie. This stream shouldn't take that long. Oh, how many times have I said this stream shouldn't take that long? It should only take like, um, 2, maybe 3 hours, and then we end up going like 4 hours or overtime. Why is it not popping up here? Okay, there we go. All right, I think it's fine for us to start. What's up, my dudes, my dudettes, my dudenaries? I am immediately regretting wearing this because this is actually, it's really hot where I am right now, and wearing a hoodie with a heavy jacket over it, um, is an insane thing to do. Hello, Joshua. Tonight we're going to be doing 100 line, but we're not going to be playing it, of course. We've already finished playing the game at this point. At this point, we're doing the tier list slash discussions for all of the characters and all of the scenarios in the 100 line. I'm not sure which one to go with first. Because I did go to tier list maker and I see like 2 separate character tier lists, and I mean, right now I'm leaning more towards the second one, even though it technically has more characters, but like it also has a lot of NPC characters, which is why I'm like that. And then, but I'm looking at the first one and I see like it splits up the main cast kind of into 3 with like terms like first impression. I'm assuming that's what FI means. And then second one is Route 0, RO, Route 0, and then after that one, it's Redo, which is just everything, you know, in the 100 line 2, essentially. You guys can't see it. I'll show you it in a second, because I'm stuck between those 2. I wanted to do characters first, but in all honesty, God, 68 characters to 6 versus 61 characters. Like, we're going to be here a long time, apparently. Anyways, next, once again, I wanted to talk about this because this is a little bit important. There's gonna be a 100 line to like 200 line or 1,000 line. Ooh. Oh wait, no, 10,000 line. It's actually a square root. Anyways, the stream schedule for this week, what I'm planning for it to be right now, is this upcoming Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, or it might be pushed back a little later. We're going to be doing Zenless Zone Zero just to finish off that story. Then this upcoming Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to be finishing off The Amazing Digital Circus with episode 8 and 9. Then this Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, and Saturday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, I am planning on doing Danganronpa 2 with Bray if he's able to join me for that Friday. Saturday's for sure locked in. We're probably going to be doing Chapter 5. We're not going to be finishing Chapter 5, though. We're probably going to be in, like, halfway through the trial. That's kind of like my theory right now, because that's how it's usually been the last couple streams. And then, most importantly, next Sunday is still an open slot for 2 p.m. Pacific time. And the reason why is because I have a poll that's going to be closing this Thursday where we're going to be starting a new series. You guys can access that poll link in the Discord, over on my community post for YouTube, or over on my Twitter. But right now it's open until Thursday, and right now, last I checked, that is not what I need. That's not what I was trying to look for. There we go. Yeah, Class of 09 Puzzle Showdown is winning. So, on that poll. But there are other options like Night in the Woods, Yet Another Killing Game, Doom, Life is Strange, Jackpot Crash Course, Yakuza 0, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Love Exalt, Decide for God, Higurashi, No Sleep for Kaname Date. There's some of these games that I'm probably going to pull off of the poll, and then, you know, once I'm finished with, like, my Saturday and Friday stuff, probably put those there, because, like, they're ongoing series. Date Everything, Shoots in Order, Of the Devil, Dispatch, Iron Lung, Fears the Fathom, Omori, and Class of 09. You guys already know. So if you guys want to, like, you know, want me to play a different game, once again, vote in that poll while you still can. Also wanted to mention that once we hit our follower goal on Twitch of 50 followers and our subscriber goal of 500 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to host a stream event where we all play either Among Us, Carnage, or Goose Goose Duck together. That will be a poll. I'm also looking at Deadly Trick. Also looking at Deadly Trick as well, and like other similar games that might be, like, you guys can also let me know if there are other similar games that we can all play together, similar to those types of games, you know, and like just have fun, that sort of thing. You guys can let me know. We also, like over on the Discord using the suggestion box. Also, once again, we're going to be using voice chat for that stream, which slash gaming community event, which you can access via the Discord over in the description down below or on the channel page for like the link for it. Anyways, IDK says by how many votes is it winning? It is winning by like 1 vote, and there's like a 4-way tie between Higurashi, Yakuza 0, Jackpot Crash Course, and Night in the Woods, like right behind it. It's winning by like 1 vote, and it currently has like 33% of the votes. Like once again, right now it's only winning by 1 vote. So there's a possibility that it could be overtaken. So yeah, real quick, I'm trying to figure out which one to do first for this. Because once again, I know holy tabs, but like, you know, I kind of pulled these up just in case I needed a reminder. I kind of don't want to do first impressions or Route Zero because I feel like that wouldn't be fair, but I can't really get rid of them. I feel like they're so varied that it doesn't really feel fair to like for the different routes. That doesn't really feel fair to like, you know, separate it like this. But at the same time, it's only separated in a way where it's like first impressions, Route Zero, and then the redo, which is the full game. Do I want to take off the jacket if the heat's bothering me? No, I'm going to commit to the bit. I do it for Danganronpa. I did it for Makoto Naegi. I did it for like Hajime Hinata, Jimmy Hentai. I'm gonna be doing it. I'm gonna be doing it for Takumi. All right. I'll just have to power through it, maximum effort. But I'm probably gonna be drinking water a lot, especially since this is gonna be a massive discussion stream. But yeah, I feel like I could just ignore 2 of these for each character and then just focus on the main cast. It helps that, like, okay, because there's this one, and then there's this other one that I kind of made where it has, like, every character once again. I think it's, like, every character that's voiced, and then it has, like, you know, the gi separated instead of put together, and then, which would probably be, like, slightly better because each of these 3 here specifically kind of act differently, and then we could ignore this one because like I got nothing. I got nothing for what is the pun name I could come up with you? Cactua-gi, Nizogi, Gi-kumi, Gimaru. What was I gonna say? You know what? I'm going to add a new one. Let's add a new row. No, wait. Actually, I'm pretty sure I put it here. Just a repeat character. Yeah, all right. There we go. What was I going to say again? Right. It has technically more characters in form of, like, also, like, how the Gis kind of work as well. And then, like, you know, the invaders and then the Retsnam as well, which is something that this is lacking. As well as, like, the little girl and I'm assuming the other characters who were in the Goodbye Ito route as well. Why are there fish heads? Oh, comedy route. So I'm kind of leaning more towards this. I'm assuming this is supposed to be sponsor. Kind of leaning more towards this one. Of course, they go with the OO face with Takumi. But I don't know. This one has the actual names of the invaders, which will help a lot. But like at the same time, I'm like, screw it. We're just going to look them up here and then figure it out. And hopefully it's in order. Hopefully it's in order. I do have the wiki pulled up in case I needed it. And I did find a scenario one that had the actual names of it, of each route. Anyways, I feel like we should do characters first, yeah? Maybe like look at the different characters. Actually, hold on. Is there Ava up here actually? Oh god Oh no, because this the maskless Kurara kind of tells me that okay, you know what? You know what? Let's just start off already. I This is just Cactuagi, right? This is just Cactuagi. We can get rid of like the repeats, all right? Okay, that's the Holy Jumanji sword. Okay, let's do this like one at a time, all right? Don't want to get rid of this one necessarily because it's not technically Ava. It's technically Takumi's stando, or like I guess what was the term they use? Avatar of Ava. So that's technically different. Sponsor varies because like sponsors identity changes. We'll keep the gi here, but they're probably gonna go on actual NPC anyways. Um Oh, is this supposed to be Guto from like the conspiracy route? All right. So we could keep you here, NPCs, repeat characters. Okay, this is like second scenario Ito. I'm just gonna wrap this one up into normal Ito actually. And then we're just gonna put these. Okay. I feel like I don't need this tier that I made. All right, let's just start already with moving characters to NPCs. So move you there. I don't know. Okay. Skip, skip, skip. I don't know about you yet. I might put you there. They don't even have full faces. So, like, I don't know what you want me to say here. I forgot the Holy Jumanji sword technically talks in the romance route. You don't matter. You don't matter. You're technically a repeat as well. You're technically a repeat as well. What does Ava's mask look like again? Like that? Is it that one? Let me pull both of these up actually, and then I can compare and contrast a little bit here. Oh no, I'm gonna have to shrink this down a little bit. All right. Give me a minute. Give me a minute here. Just trying to figure this out. Okay, it's gone. Great. Okay, I wish I could just see. Okay, there we go. We could see the images down here. All right, thanks. Oh, that's Ava, but like maskless. All right, thanks, 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 game. Thanks, Wiki. Let's see if I can find masked Ava then, because there's a link to this. All right, that's masked Ava. Her mask looks like that. I might have to just say screw it and go with like the lobotomized on our side Ava because like I could see her face. All right, it looks like that. I'm trying to see if Ava is up here somewhere. Oh wait, nope. Shh. Okay, yeah, here she is. All right, yeah, that one's Ava. But they got masked Veshness. I'm gonna have to put you here. I'm sorry. It's just easier to see Ava when I can actually see her face. All right. And then of course the fishes will go here, of course. All right, and if I feel like there's other characters who are NPCs or I got no opinion of, I'll probably just put them back there. Or if I get confused with who's who here, because they all wear the mask and they always permanently wear the mask, like, I'll probably bring this back. Okay, I think we're finally good to start here. Hmm. Takumi Samina, this is probably going to be a fast stream because like I'm probably not going to go as deep as I could with these characters, but if you guys want to like debate in chat and like, talk to me in chat and like see if we got any other opinions in chat, like, just let me know. I do think Takumi is kind of like one of the best protagonists for this type of game specifically. Like, okay, how do I describe this? I feel like a lot of this game, like in terms of looking through the game with how it's presented in second scenario, I do feel like, Takumi kind of being a more passive, more of a passive guy at the, in Route Zero before, starting to take action and his like, choices having agency in the main game, was like very much a very much necessary development, even though like, God, Route Zero ran on for so long. And I do feel like, hmm. I do feel like through every route, I feel like we got to see a new side of Takumi. Yes, even in the Takumi route, even in terms of like, you know, okay, I'll talk about Cult of Takumi later. But it's interesting to see how Takumi as a character could end up without the Gee's influence, like ending up like kind of corrupted and almost like a fallen hero god like god complex like character, in almost in a way kind of regresses as a character, with terms of like looking at terms of like still continuing on with the cult, and how it ends up with like Nozomi being lobotomized, and how he, okay, kind of like in a gross way, obsession style, kind of like in a way took away Nozomi's agency, did it with Nozomi, and then has even Nozomi, like call him by like his childhood nickname, which is Tacky as well. Like that part, like being like drawn, like when you draw it against like how good he can also be in like roots of like once again second scenario, well, not second scenario, but I feel like more in line with like the stronger more compass he has in like SF route, specifically with trying to save everyone, as well as even Hiroko, from like, the fate of being trapped in the time loop, second scenario also plays it surprisingly straight and also in a realistic kind of way, where once again, I do feel like a lot of this story is like anti-colonialism, with humans being the colonizers and obviously being the bad guys, but Takumi obviously, okay, knowing the truth of everyone being homunculi and having false memories and all that, despite that they still continue fighting for humanity in second scenario. It is very interesting. Like, once again, it is very kind of like, how do I say this? Realistic in a way where it's like, even when they know they're the bad guys at this point, they've gone too far. They believe they've gone too far. They believe they can't, fix any of their actions. Once again, change any of their actions, change one of their, how do I phrase this? Like they believe it's like too far for redemption, or like to change paths at this point, is what I'm trying to say. And I do believe that, like, even though it was like a little bit late, the final like change of heart in ending one, where they finally fight for the Fatorans, save the Fatorans at the cost of their own lives, and then like kind of like once again, like in a way fight for peace, or like say no one wants to be in constant conflict, no one wants to be in war, they all want to live, they all want peace, which would eventually lead to like Nozomi finally making peace with like as the last human, finally making peace with the Fatorans, like carrying on Takumi's will and everyone else's in Hundred Line's will, essentially, and finally making contact with like the Fatorans, that sort of thing. Sorry, I'm really bad at phrasing. Takumi was kind of there for just 50% of the route. I mean, he's the protagonist. He's kind of going to be there for like most of the routes, anyways. So yeah, Takumi's up here. Takamaru. You did piss me off in Killing Game route, but I'd still say he's up there. He's S rank character for sure. He did piss me off a little bit in once again, he did piss me off a bit in in Killing Game route, with like the whole Takumi is the Grim Reaper thing, but like I feel like it was kind of realistic at that point, but I feel like they just ran that bit into the ground. He is genuinely like a, he may look like a thug, but he's genuinely like a bit of a thug, but still with a heart of gold kind of trope, which is like, something which is like a trope we like. Yeah. Takamaru is just Mondo. Yeah, pretty much. But also like, even though he was raised by a single mom in his like false memories, he was raised by a single mom, and like he tried to like help her in certain ways, but also like in a way was trying to help the people who raised them, which was like basically his the old people around in the neighborhood, that sort of thing. And he always has like that lesson from his late father, who is like a man never bullies the weak, and especially not women and children. He keeps like that part of his character throughout kind of like the entire game. I feel like he's fairly consistent overall. I could be mistaken, could be forgetting something, but I do really love Takamaru's character, and he is just overall a really goated character. Hiroko, also goated. Also really goated character. We see so many facets of Hiroko and interesting, okay, almost, I want to say, quote unquote, contradictions with her character here, where like she once again, in spite of her like cold attitude, cold, tougher, almost aloof attitude, and being a woman, like kind of being a foil to Takumi, where Takumi is someone who thrives in normal life and was kind of thrusted into like the chaotic war, the chaotic life of war and finding invaders. Hiroko was also living a normal life, but was bored by it and wanted to experience new things. And also, like, once again, thrives during the war. But then also we see other aspects of her character where she has, like, almost this nurturing aspect to her with, like, for example, Darumi in the Killing Game route, where she kind of takes Darumi under her wing. Or, like, even in her, Bond events as well, where she says she doesn't want to mother children, but once again, it's kind of contradicted with how she kind of nurtures like Darumi, and like how she like even though she has that aloof exterior, she does genuinely care for the cast. Like with Takumi, once again, with the SF route, even though it was kind of greedy of her to leave like Takumi Gi just kind of like corrupted by the gi. She wanted that like moment where she hugs and comforts Takumi, and that I feel like that's kind of like where her character thrives a lot as well. Kind of like thrives in a mixture of like fighting through difficult things and coming out the other side, like once again, as we see with her surgeries, but also like with her wanting to become a surgeon, but also being someone who thrives in taking care of others, because once again, she does want to become a surgeon, but she also wants to be a veterinarian as well as like, once again, kind of feeds into like, how she likes calico cats, and like, there are like, almost cute aspects of her, if that makes any sense, or softer aspects of her, I guess is a better way to word it, that she tries to keep hidden. Um, like it's like once again, it's very much like cold exterior, but like and once again, still has that warm, caring heart to her. All right, who's next? Darumi. Okay, Darumi. What can I say about Darumi? I feel like Darumi starts off as like the Danganronpa fan kind of character, if that makes any sense. Basically we thought that she was gonna be one-dimensional, referencing killing games all the time and all of that. But I feel like overall, I won't go far as to say she's goated. I feel like she does have like a lot of aspects to her character here that I could say confidently she is S rank. She's great. Like Darumi, once again, Retstom does wonders for her character. Like once again, she has that like almost like this trauma from her falsified memories, where she's kind of like has to like earn money her own way because like her mom left her for a younger guy at like at her workplace, and then her dad kind of became a deadbeat after the mom divorced him and left him. But at the same time, even though like she hates them, she also still loves and like cherishes them in a way. Well, not, I wouldn't say cherishes them, but still cares for them, even though what they did was infuriating. Like she said, once again, I hope they die in a fire, but not really, like that sort of thing. And even though she once again has to work at like a pretty shady place. We're not gonna like, go too deep into that, but a pretty shady place where she has to like, dress up in a different way, of course, that she's not a fan of, and like, to earn money, that sort of thing. But then on days off and all that, she dresses the way she dresses and like, likes the things she likes, and she's confident in that. If you don't gel with her, that's too bad for you. She could just find someone else. But even though she has those like, once again, she does have those like suicidal tendencies as well, because like her life is so rough and she always searches for escapism into like almost a fetishistic form of like eroges with dark, especially dark eroges and killing game fantasies and all that, with also her having that like natural inclination to try to create some of her own. And she thinks she can't really connect to others until like meeting Takumi, both in the Retsnam route and even in the Bond events, where like she feels like she can keep going because she feels like she has someone who like, actually likes her for her and accepts her. That sort of thing. And then she essentially in Retsnam route, like once again, kind of like sacrifices herself through Retsnam, through taking in Retsnam in order to like, try and like save everyone, as well as like try to save everyone who passed that second scenario, but also like spare Takumi and help Takumi through like this kind of like survivor's guilt slash like borderline, I don't want to say hero complex, it's not really that, but basically like this kind of like, feeling that he let everyone at second to last defense academy down, which led to his own isolation from the rest of the group. Killing Game Route also like showed some aspects of like, care she does have for like Tsubasa and for the others as well. Like we know what you are. You don't actually want these people to die. You do actually care for them. What you have on is kind of like an act, but like I feel like it doesn't do it as well as Retsnam did. How do I feel about the over-the-top Darumi simping YouTubers have been doing? I didn't even know people were simping for Darumi, really? Did not even know that. So I don't know what you want me to say there. I don't know what you want me to say. I didn't even know people did that. Anyways, Ito. I did not mean to put him over Takumi. Ito is a interesting character, full of like once again contradictions that make sense. Like he's simultaneously someone who hates all of humanity due to like once again a glitch in his brain which may or may not be connected, this is all theory, to like the conspiracy route with the people who are against like the colonization and among the humans, that sort of thing, but like once again he is a man who hates humanity, whose whole thing with humans, we're social creatures. That's basically our thing, right? That is basically what makes us us. But he's also a guy who wants community. That's basically Ito's entire character, which is kind of contradictory. Like once again, we see so many aspects of his character, for example, through like let's go through the list here. Let's go through the list. First of all, second scenario where he kind of redeems himself, wants to redeem himself, and wants to rejoin the group by removing his eyes, which he once thought was righteous, and burning his nose, like basically crippling himself in order to like, try and like make amends and rejoin with the group. And in Goodbye Ito, if he doesn't get accepted, oh wait, actually let's continue with second scenario. In his final words where he passes, he admits that he still loathed everyone, but he also loved them all deeply, especially Takumi. Like once again, he's a man of contradiction due to like his cognitive disorder, which is like once again he's someone who hates all of humanity, but also just wants community. And also, in a way, he's kind of right when you think about second scenario that humans are kind of the bad guys, considering all the Geneva Conventions and like blasphemes they did to the Phatorans, low key, and they're the ones who started this war. So he's right. I will die on this hill. Of course, we also get, like, once again, Goodbye Ito, where once again, in his final moments, we learned that he wanted to have, like, he had Sire implant false memories of, his time with everyone into his brain in order to not feel as lonely, in order to like, have those like cherished memories of them, even if he's not with them. And he just wanted to he just wanted to see he just wanted to see like what ending the rest of the group would go with. Like, once again, he got inspired by the rest of the group, who were still fighting on in spite of their like the despair of like all their memories being false and all that. And he kind of like envied them for that and wanted to join them and got inspired from that, And then of course there is like other routes such as what was that one route called, coming of age. Yeah, coming of age route, where he pretended to be lobotomized when he wasn't really, but like, Takumi kind of calls out how he seemed to be enjoying his time at the beach with everyone, and once again that like takes him aback, because once again that kind of calls to what he wants as a person, which is like just almost this sense of community and sense of like acceptance for who he is, which is like once again kind of tackled a lot in like, whenever we choose to kill Ito, both in like multiple Ito's route, where he torments Takumi and makes Takumi see things the way he sees them, that sort of thing, with making everyone look like him, as well as like one of the routes where he's just like stuck commentating or like commentating or like, in Takumi's head, like the many different aspects of Ito there that we see of him there. But also when we see Ito die in like, the first time, with like that leads to like all the other routes on like the other side of the branch as well. We kind of see like the judgment he has in like, Killing Game, and calling out Takumi for like, the hypocrisy he runs, like that sort of thing. Like, I feel like Takumi, especially in Route Zero, was a bit more passive and kind of like, went with more so with the flow. But like, Ito was always more active and, active with his beliefs, especially where like once he has like this solid belief, he will like follow it to the bitter end. It's not that it's not malleable either, or won't change or won't vary technically, or he's incapable of changing, as we see in second scenario once again, and Goodbye Ito. But like, once again, he truly fights for what he believes in, which is very fascinating. It's like, it's weird. How do I describe him? The best way I could describe him is like, it's like if the best friend character in like a lot of like, you get the idea. The best friend trope kind of got spun on its head, and it turns out like they're a secret villain, Kind of felt like that at first. But it still left the possibility open for redemption and change. Oh boy, we have a lot more characters than I thought here. All right, let's start. Tsubasa, easy S. Easy S. Are you kidding me? Tsubasa, I feel like, once again, surprisingly, I feel like the main three love interests that are consistent through, I guess, not multiple timelines, sort of multiple timelines. How do I say this? If you ignore Kiyoshika and Kurara, always end up being Hiroko, Tsubasa, and like Nozomi, who are debatably some of the more like grounded characters. I feel like Tsubasa, once again, feels like a real girl you could meet, even with like, the nervous stomach and the puking. I feel like Tsubasa is very much like a how do I describe it? She is a little bit tomboyish, but she still acts almost like girly. She also has like this like genuine care she has for the group. She's goated in the fact as well, pretty goated in the fact as well of like she is an S. She is an S. This is S rank. She's goated in the fact that she makes like a bunch of gadgets that end up being useful for later. A lot as well. And like once again, she almost okay. Well, I feel like one of the routes where she does shine a lot as well is a bit in like Veshna's route, as well as like Killing Game route, and I guess technically Romance route, with trying to get to know her as a character, I guess, with her personality. a little bit. She's always a girl who, like, in spite of everything that's going on around her, still looks towards almost like the future, if that makes any sense. Like with Takumi when he was in that depressive state, or like Darumi when she was like during the killing game route. Essentially, she's the one who basically pulls them out of their ruts. And I feel like, once again, it does take a lot of confidence to like almost, have that nervous stomach and have that like like when you have like a physical reaction to stress, that sort of thing, to like, actually fight. And she does it like a lot of the time. Even with the Veshnas route where she didn't sacrifice herself like the other two, it makes sense considering where she was at as a character at that point. But she manages to like how do I phrase it? She manages through like development, if we choose not to kill Veshnas or backstab Veshnas, to turn around, help basically the group kind of rebel against like their captors, and even has to like push through and even like kill Takumi in a way in order to do away with Veshnas. But still keeps her empathy when she notices Veshnas kind of like cradling Takumi in that route, like someone precious to her, and just letting them, run off even though they died. I'm not putting Ito in D. Not your tier list. My tier list, my rules. Gaku. Gaku. I'm kidding. Okay, how do I say this? Because I do feel like Gaku, once again, it's tough for me to say here. He has surprising a lot to his character than I originally anticipated. Like, once again, Gaku does have, like, once again, he does care about the group in his own way. Like, once again, even though let's look at his backstory real quick. He was a poor boy who lived in a foster family, and as the oldest, well, now oldest, ignoring his own older sibling who left, takes care of his younger siblings and has to do like a bunch of part-time jobs in order to like, help make money, and also does sewing for his younger siblings in order to fix their clothes, and basically takes care of them, while also only using hand-me-downs for himself, or having his like foster mother like repair them, that sort of thing, but making sure that, once again, his siblings kind of get almost spoiled, I suppose. Like, he does care about the group, but also Gaku, once again, even in game, does do help a lot with like all the different events, like the barbecue, the not the fair, it's kind of the fair. I forgot what word to use. The thing. Every time there's like an event, like one of those party events, Gaku is usually there. Like, he helps build up the team's morale, if that makes any sense. And then there was, of course, the closest we get to like Gaku development, where it's in, how do I phrase this one? Where it's in the box of blessings route, where he has this like issue with his own confidence, and looks up to Takumi in a way where he wishes he could be more confident and competent like Takumi in his eyes at that point. And when he does get his chance to shine, he kind of blows it a little bit with like reviving everyone. Like he brought everyone like by wishing for his own harem. But also I don't want to say I excuse it, because it does give the obsession vibe with like Darumi and Kiyoshika just kind of being in love with them, but like it's not like he made everyone fall in love with him. It was just those two. But like at the same time, I'm not sure if I could really support that, really. But he also wanted to make sure that everyone still had their happy ending. Just that he also had a little bit of a happier ending there. I feel like a lot of the things that hold him back from me going any higher, surprisingly, is like putting him in any upper tiers, is like just how the story presents him, or ends up presenting him. Like, I feel like he's a very realistic character when he's not being a total perv. Like, I feel like I would know a Gaku in real life when he's not being like a total pro for the characters. Like, once again, with the pool party, he helped everyone with like the swimsuits, but then he also made swimsuits for the girls that the girls rejected because apparently they were really bad. And that's the thing that bothers me. Like, stuff like that, it always bothers me, you know? So I can't say I would put him in F tier at all. Needs to be better written because I feel like he has a lot of like good stuff to like good characterization to him, but it's just unfortunately mostly locked behind the Bond events. Like once again, he does grow to like once again care about the rest of the group as a whole and cares about group morale a lot eventually, but at the same time, it's like uh at the same time, it's like the perviness of his character and sometimes the insufferability that comes from him complaining all the time just kind of detracts from his character a bit. I'm not okay with putting him anywhere in the upper tiers, but like I can't say I feel like where do I put him? Gaku, I didn't think Gaku would be this hard for me to place. Personally, I feel like Gaku, it's not fair for me to call him mid either. I can't really put him in F either, where it's like he needs to be better written because he has good writing. It's just locked behind the goddamn Bond event. I don't know. I'm stuck between I feel like he needs more, but he also did kind of get his chance to shine already. I think he's I think he's fine in the story for what he is. I think he serves his purpose as a character, you know. But I feel like the story really does just kind of screw him over, and the scenarios don't really give him his chance to shine like he, honestly, I can't believe I'm about to say this, deserves. Ima. Kako. All right, well, I'll graze over Ima. I'm sorry, Ima. I don't know. I can't get behind the sister complex thing. Like, okay, I get his backstory. I get his backstory where he and Kako both lost their parents when they were young, and then he had to like work in like underground, like in the underground crime ring, essentially at a young age. And he was always overprotective of his sister, who's his last family, and like he always threw himself down into like degrading or like even like dangerous positions. Also, like just basically tainting himself morally and quite possibly, who knows, even physically for all we know, with how they always state that he has to like drive like the other woman back. Who knows what happened with him specifically, but like basically, which leads to like violent tendencies, which is like what we've seen in Route Zero with him stabbing Takamaru, and in like which one was it, Box of Calamity Route, when he crashes out. Also, even in like Murder Mystery Route, in all honesty, when he loses his sister. He does have the red rage baiter, and I do love it when he fucking like knocks Gaku down a peg, and that part of his character is interesting and fun. Well, kind of fun. But I'm sorry, I can't get behind the sister complex thing. It just goes too far for me. Even in the second scenario, where I feel like, okay, I get what the writer was probably trying to say with his final words being like, no matter what, I hope we're together, with he says with Takako, essentially. If you boil it down, like that's all he wants, to be together with like his sister, which, okay, sure, buddy, whatever, fair. But once again, the way he phrases it is what bothers me. Like, it doesn't matter if we're like brother sister again, if we're like mother father, or like father son, or father daughter, I mean, or mother son. Who knows? Who cares about that one? I can't remember the exact quote. Or lovers. It's like the lovers thing is what pushes it too far for me. Like, that is an insane thing to be saying about your own twin sister. But yeah, like, I feel like there was hints of a good character here, but it's kind of ruined. A lot of people put Ima in C or D tier. Fair enough. Fair enough. I just feel like he's like off the letter list. You're not wrong. If it wasn't for how bad the sister complex thing is, I would probably put him either in like C or D. But it's so bad because we also have characters who Ukatoshi and Kodaka, well, not Kodaka necessarily, kinda have written before, where it's not like they're obsessed with their own family member who is the last family member they have to this degree. Like, okay, how do I phrase this one? Let's think about it here for a second. Like Santa, aka Aoi Kuroshiki, who has pretty much beat for beat, bar for bar, same backstory as Ima, where once again, it's the older brother taking care of the younger sister after both the brother and sister's parents got murdered. Well, technically we were told that they died in a car crash, but there was like a conspiracy apparently around it in Zero Time Dilemma where they were actually murdered. Okay, the point I'm trying to make here is it's complicated. The point I'm trying to make here is like Aoi basically once again had to work for his like work for money for make sure like sister stayed fed, and also made sure that like he remained her Santa Claus. Get it, because his code name is Santa. San means three, Japanese, also ta, but also making the pun on him being like his sister Santa, where kind of like also was saving up money to buy her gifts and stuff, and trying to make sure that every one of her wishes came true, trying to take care of her that way, only to ultimately fail / succeed in the first nonary game in the backstory of 999. Spoiler alert for 999. I say fail and succeed at the same time because like Schrodinger's cat, Akane was supposed to die there, but due to like morphogenetic field theory and time shenanigans, we created a time paradox / Schrodinger's cat-like situation where Akane is simultaneously dead and alive, unless you go to the true golden ending of 999, where Junpei is able to make contact with like younger Akane and get her through her puzzle, which would allow her to survive the incinerator. And thus, that's why Akane and Aoi essentially had to host the nonary game again 9 years later to make sure that situation happened in the first place. Like, there, you can make a character like Emo work, obviously. I think they just pushed it too far with the sister complex thing. All right, Kako. Kako is also just fine. It's hard for me to like name anything for her. I feel like, once again, very much the Akane to like Ima's Aoi, where basically, once again, she has a lot of traits to her, and they do surprisingly connect and mesh well together, even though they feel like they should be contradictory. Like, once again, she has a mixture of like wanting to be a detective and has like that detective aspect to her, which she looks up to from her father, who ended up dying when they were younger, once again, and she has that belief of it being like a conspiracy because like once again her father was a detective and made lots of enemies, that sort of thing, and she wants to figure that out. But also it's kind of like in a way contradicted by her clairvoyance that she believes she has, which is more or less kind of true. It usually ends up being true, like in second scenario with like us saving Gaku over Kurara ends up with us like getting closer to second scenario route. You get the idea, or learning the truth basically. And I also like, okay, once again, I feel like Kako does it a bit better than Ima, but kind of showing like these two kind of have this toxic codependency that they had with each other, and they kind of need to grow apart to grow together, if that makes any sense. basically, instead of being like, each other's siblings, they can both each be their own person, but like they still remain each other's siblings. Just because you guys grow on your own or separate, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean like you both don't still care for each other. I wish Ima's was more shown on screen, but I feel like Kako both had that moment where she gets to mature as a character, but also still shows that she did, in spite of like her kind of like rebellion against Ima and pushing Ima away, that she still cares for Ima. Like in I keep calling it second scenario, but we see that in the game. It's not all second scenario, but we kind of get it. And even with like finding out the truth, she didn't really like, once again, she acknowledges she didn't really have much before coming to the school anyways, but she does love and cherish everyone in her group. Like, once again, she is very much like, a very, kind and caring person, but still. Joshua, do I think the writer is forcing this weird non-normal sibling relationship intentionally or no? Was intentional or no? Forcing? I'm sorry, what do you mean? I'm trying to understand what you're saying here. Do I think the writers were forcing this weird, non-normal sibling relationship intentionally or no? Like, forcing it intentionally is what you're trying to say. I don't really know. Because, like, once again, I'm also looking at through the game in it as through, like, once again, a Western lens, and through the fact that it had to go through a localizer and then like a localizer, a translator and then a localizer. And then, once again, when games get like localized, like translated and localized, some things might end up getting lost, some things end up changing a lot sometimes to, or versus a little. But like, I could see Kodaka, like looking at Kotaka's writing, I could see Kodaka making characters like these. So I do think that they were kind of making them like this intentionally, which is I don't know. It feels like it's always Kotaka with like, with his writing where he always like, makes a character have like a bombastic first impression usually. A lot of his characters have a bombastic first impression, or like, before we peel back the layers and we learn more about their character. Shoma, I'm also putting him in B tier. I I don't know. It's his like self-deprecating nature that kind of holds him back for me, but I do feel like Shoma, it's almost, how do I phrase this? When in arcs where he has a positive arc, in storylines where he has a positive arc, or even in his Bond events, I do like how he does want to genuinely change and become a better person in his own way. Even through the challenges of like, once again, of his own like insecurity, or like, his own what's the word I'm looking for? Something complex. Inferiority complex. There we go. Like, he wants to get better in his own way, and he bonds with Takamaru a lot. With like, trying to get stronger, obviously, like through like the, once again, Route Zero with the weightlifting thing and trying to stand up for the group, and still showing like kindness in his own way, not really being able to fight back, but taking hit after hit until Kurara is just worn down. And then, still trying to like, be nice to everyone. Like, I do like and appreciate that nature of him, how he kind of has that like kind and caring nature to him, as well as like the like almost to I don't want to say a naivete, like a naive degree, but to the point where he could potentially be taken advantage of. Though I feel like he needs to balance that out more with his character. But I do really love Shoma's character, like Shoma's character. I wouldn't say love, but he is a bit infuriating sometimes with like how he just takes in like the frickin' gi, which ends up getting people killed, and ended up getting him killed, and ended up getting Nozomi possessed by the gi, which is like, minorly annoying, which is probably why I'm able to let go of Gaku when he brought the gi in himself as well. Stacked on top of like Darumi doing the same thing in two routes with Retsunam and the gi, and Takumi with the gi. With the Takumi, I mean, with the Retsunam, which is why I'm probably able to excuse him too. Okay, how do I phrase Shoma? My thoughts on Shoma. Really like his character. kind of goes a lot with the inferiority complex and insulting himself. Sometimes, like, with the way he insults himself, it's unique and funny, but, like, other times it's like, dude, we're doing this again? Like, but, like, when he does grow as a character, he still always keeps that core, like, kindness with his character and trying to become the best version of himself in his own way. Like, changing to, like, obviously trying to grow to become stronger in his own way and changing, you know? The 100 line was the friends we made along the way. Yeah, this truly is our 100 line Last Defense Academy. Nozomi. I'm probably going to talk about this too. Actually, now that we got essentially what is essentially all the surrogate protagonists here. God, Nozomi as a character has so much dimension to her as the only human, technically, among the group. Like, once again, she has kind of this tragic backstory with her mom, where she, once again, lets herself become like a human experiment for the hemoanima experiments, which ends up with her getting those rejection symptoms. And then when her mom, like, you know, takes her own life, essentially, after, like, her project gets shut down, Nozomi trying to fulfill her mom and also in a way humanity's wish by fighting in the war and going alongside, like having her own agency and doing that is like really neat to her character. Really like that aspect of her character, as well as like how do I phrase this one? I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this. Nozomi still keeping almost this like big sister energy slash childhood friend kind of vibe depending on whatever route you go with. She has like that kind nurturing kind of aspect to her almost consistently, but she also is still like a character of her own agency, and it doesn't go like, you know, too far like, oh, I'm a girly girl or whatever, like damsel in distress or whatever. And it's interesting to see the connection she had with Takumi. And once again, I already explained Second Scenario's ending and why that's so strong to me. But yeah, there's just a lot to Nozomi here. And now I could talk about like this aspect of the game with the aspects of the protagonist. Once again, I already talked about Takumi and how he's the perfect protagonist for this type of story. Ito with the goodbye Ito route, it's interesting to see. I feel like he's this very interesting in the fact that we got to see things from his perspective. See, but like, you know, I feel like out of like the protag swaps, he had the deepest one. I feel like Nozomi's was, even though we did get one route for it, I feel like it's just way too short, you know? It was like way too short and way too like I don't know, it's not necessarily sudden. I don't think we got to have a deep dive within her character as much as we could with Ito, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It wasn't really the point of that story. Similar thing with Hiroko as well, where we did get to see a little bit of her perspective, but I feel like even though we had less, it felt like it had more depth, if that makes any sense. With her essentially kind of like sacrificing her own happiness in SF route by taking the rest of the survivors of I forgot which ending it was, but basically the ending where Takumi suffers from like the leap damage and dies basically, as well as like, you know, Cactua Gi kind of showing up and killing everyone, well, not everyone, but like everyone who survived in the murder mystery route, taking the rest of the survivors back to murder mystery route so that they could have their own happy ending at the cost of her not getting hers, and then just passing along, like, you know, getting nuked alongside Takumi's corpse. Like, once again, it is tragic, and once again shows the caring nature she has despite her aloofness. Kurara, me. All right, here we go with Kurara. I also think she's just fine. I find it interesting where I find the aspect of her character where she kind of wants to stand on her own in the Bond event. She wants to stand on her own and become a better Usuzuki, or bring the Usuzukis to a better light by trying to stand on her own and figure out, like, you know, life on her own 2 feet, but not knowing that she doesn't have the common sense and having the humbleness to take off her mask and ask Takumi for help. I feel like Kurara is more palatable as a character when she kind of has her mask off, or when she's not being a. She can have her mask on when she's not being like, calling everyone a peon, or like, more importantly, not being like an S to the SNN, like a, like perv, like when she's bullying like either Gaku or Kyoshika, if that makes any sense. But like, I do feel like Kurara once again has that like deal with like has to deal with like, once again, in her fabricated backstory, that betrayal she had when she opened up to her tutor, and that tutor turned out to be a spy, and that's why she has trust issues, and that's why she has this conflict with Nozomi about the, her identity. I do find that plot line interesting. Even in Conspiracy Route, where she kind of like, tries to bring meaning to like everything they've done at that point, even if everything may be a lie, or like, that sort of thing. And how she kind of like tries to help, like, motivate Takumi and all that sort of things, and kind of becomes a co-conspirator, is pretty neat, I suppose. And then her fight back in the slasher route with the zombie geese, with the zombies, if you will, kind of gave her like this cool moment, but also shows that she still cared for Takumi when, once again, she was, puts Takumi almost out of his misery when he was like, possessed by the gi, when she realizes that somehow, in some way, he was still in there. And, and that's why zombie Takumi spared her. Like, I do feel like she has a lot of interesting aspects to her character here, but it's just when, okay, how do I phrase this one? Oh yeah, the romance route I should probably mention as well. I mean, romance route was fine. We watched movies, and it was like, while we were dating and all that. I feel like romance route also had aspects of past, future, no, past, present, future, with Kyoshika kind of being in the here and now, and Tsubasa kind of being in, like, kind of focusing more on the future. I feel like Kyoshika, no, not Kyoshika, Kurara focuses a lot on the past in this case. How would I feel about the characters and the game itself if second scenario didn't exist? Kind of hard to separate it, in all honesty, in my head. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to tell. It's hard for me to separate in my head, because second scenario feels like such a strong follow-up to Route Zero that I can't really see it any other way. But also, second scenario was my first route, and it kind of was my first impression overall, I suppose, on these characters through a full storyline. I guess technically outside of Route Zero. But I do feel like, I'm not sure if things would change that much, in all honesty. I don't think things would change that much, because I feel like the other routes also still reveal enough about each and every one of the characters that I don't think it would really cause any issues. Shoot, I lost track of what I was going to say here. All right, let's continue here. Kiyoshika, I'm sorry. Kiyoshika, I'm sorry I have to do this to you. I'm sorry. I have to put Kiyoshika in mid. Like, her character's simple, kind of like, once again, like this girl who was like raised in a forest, and whose only experience of the world is through manga. There's not really much I could really say to her about her, in all honesty. Like, she's a fun character, and she is so sacrificial, and like, she does care about the group as a whole, and care about the group's like relationships, emotions, and just, her friends, essentially. But like, does Kiyoshika's lack of screen time factor into this? It does factor a little bit into this. I feel like Kiyoshika's a pretty simple character to understand. And there's not really much I could really say about her. And that's what makes this tough. I can't really say, like, because there's not really a lot of depth to Kiyoshika's character. At least in my opinion. Because, like, what you see is kind of what you get. I kind of got nothing to say about Kiyoshika, in all honesty, which is probably one of the worst things you could say about a character in one of these games. Yugamu. Hmm. Ah, shit. I don't know how to describe Yugamu. I feel like Killing Game carries a lot of Yugamu, but he's also kind of like bogged down by Slasher Root and what he does there, where he kind of has the specialization of like, torture and like, causing people stress and fear, that sort of thing. But I still feel like, in spite of that, he still has that like carrying demeanor almost with his friends and with the rest of the group, even though it's also kind of tied to his killing, because like once again with his killing he wants it to be with someone he's like passionate about, I suppose. Hmm. I do feel like Killing Game does like carry a lot of his character because he's also the only one who reaches out to Takumi, but he also in a way kind of manipulates Takumi by almost grooming him into like a killer, almost, which would allow him to kill the invaders like more efficiently, but that kept Takumi alive. He does help out the group a lot though with like the various poisons and stuff he does. I feel like I gotta put him in A tier. I feel like he's also a guy who, in spite of his work and like assassin in being an assassin, I feel like he has a lot of empathy towards like other people. Like with that other assassin girl who was part of his, well, I guess now false memories, who basically like he was gonna let her kill him because like he didn't feel passionate about life anymore. He was despondent, but the girl also felt the exact same way he did. Um, and then he basically like they basically kind of vow to well he vows to like one day kill her when like when she okay when she falls into a coma after like another like attempt on her life, and basically in a way put her out of her misery when he can't like really do that. I don't know what Yugama would be if he wasn't an assassin, though, because once again, he feels like the kind of guy who would kill for pleasure. But I feel like in second scenario, with the other ending two specifically, I feel like maybe he would become like a doctor. I feel like he does become a doctor as well, if I'm remembering correctly, in the rebellion route, right? Or like he could be like the school, he said he was going to be like a school doctor. So once again, he does still have that like nurturing aspect to his character too, and like once again, he is similarly goaded in Killing Game route with like switching the bombs from Takumi into Rumi's bodies and all that sort of thing. I don't know, he's a cool guy, I guess. No bias here whatsoever. Moko. I'm sorry, I'm also kind of on the lines of she's just fine. Once again, I feel like it's like I don't know. She does have that caring nature to her. Mm, I'm stuck between B and C with her because it is kind of similar to like Kiyoshika, where it's like what you see is what you get. It's kind of like on the tin. Once again, she is simultaneously a girl who wants to be seen as like a woman, but also still is a woman who like loves wrestling and loves fighting. She's simultaneously strong. She has this like motherly nature to her, which is probably why Nozomi kind of imprints on her almost. Like, and she always has that nurturing aspect to her character as well, with like the girls of the group, and even Takumi in Romance Route, where he crashes out with like, "Why are we even doing this?" And she comforts him, and that's like a really sweet moment. She's like a really sweet girl. There's just not too much depth to her. Like, it's not like, oh my god, it feels like it's insane that I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I really put Kiyoshika and Moko beneath Gaku, which is fucking insane. But like at least with Gaku, there's something to latch onto, even if it's like something I dislike about their character. With Moko and like Kiyoshika, they're just kind of there in my head. Like there's not bad characters. They're just, how do I phrase it? I feel like they're just, they're serviceable. They do their purpose. And even looking at the backstory with her, with how she meets, like how she got into wrestling in the first place, as well, like how she copes with learning all that was fake. I feel like that one kind of helps carry her character a little bit here. But like, how do I phrase this one? Trying to find the right way to phrase this. I don't know. It feels like half of her Bond events were played for jokes, like with her, one of her, like her idol being named Anal Lord or whatever, and then having a Sakura reference technically. Which, now that I think about it, how the fuck is there an America in the TRC when the TRC is like only the complex itself? Unless the moon itself has like different, like sections to it, where it's not just the Tokyo residential complex or the people of Tokyo, it's also like other people around the world in major cities, like that sort of thing. But whatever, that's kind of a contradiction in the backstory, but that's kind of the point because it's a fabricated backstory. And I don't know, it's almost inspiring in a way when she learns like her backstory is fake, even though like it was all fake and she's not actually a wrestler. She acknowledges that she's still alive and that she can become what she would always dreamed of, you know? I just think it's neat. She's an okay character. She's fine. Okay, Sirei. Sirei is an interesting contradiction to like the different characters, you know? Interesting contradiction. I would say, okay, this is gonna be insane. I feel like, once again, he is supposed to serve as like almost like this antagonistic force while still having like human aspects, with him being like the will of humanity, but also going against said programming as well. He's also like, once again, he's supposed to be fulfilling humanity's mission. He has all of humanity like stuffed into him, all the knowledge and will of humanity stuffed into him, and they have like a majority vote for what they do next, which is interesting. But in spite of that, he also has his own will with treating Shion like a son, for example. And even when he does like lose or get killed, like in second scenario, or especially in rebellion route, he's still like, you know, kind of in his final moments like cheers on the rest of the cast, like, you know, once again for like fighting for what they believe in, you know? Like, I feel like Sirei serves like a really strong purpose in the story. He's not my favorite character for sure, but like, once again, he's a very strong character who's very important to the story, and I can't really see the story without him. Nigo, I'm just gonna put him like, I don't know. I got nothing outside of like uh being Sirei's subordinate. I don't really have much here. I mean, he's kinder than him. I feel like he has his moments with Ava, actually, which kind of with wanting to protect Ava as well, which is pretty interesting. You know, I'm gonna bump it up to a B because I feel like it's similar to Sirei, where also has will of humanity going through their head, where they're also doing like you know, these like doing a majority vote, but also going against it in a way with trying to like protect Ava. Hell, honestly, even them going against the plan of like the what the liver mortis codes were really for, which was like a last ditch effort. It was a lie. It was a last ditch effort, like suicide bombing sort of thing, you know? They were against it because they felt like that was too pushing it too far and too inhumane, which is insane because considering the lobotomies and other war crimes they do. But like, it shows that they still cared somewhat, at least for the safety of the cast, if that makes any sense. I mean, once again, it is an interesting contradiction that I feel makes sense to their characters. Because, you know, once again, they care about the safety of the cast, but yet they also kind of work against them through, like, the lobotomies and, like, the other stuff like that, you know? It's kind of hard for me to phrase. Shion. I feel like in Roots, where he does appear, he is pretty much S rank. He is also a pretty goated character and helps the group whatever he can. And he also has this tragedy to him where he can't really interact with the world the same way because of the way he was born. And also tragedy to him where he was like kidnapped from his people and was ultimately meant to be a weapon against his people. Second scenario, he meets the fate of death, as well as like the death of all the people he wanted to bond with and go to school with. And like all he wanted to do was live a normal life, which is once again something that Takumi kind of emphasizes in second scenario. Like no one wants to like fight, no one wants to be in war, they just want to live, you know? And I do feel like Shion's character was utilized pretty well, all things considered. And when he isn't around, you definitely do feel that presence. She looks at serial battles route. But yeah. Next is Ava. Fuck me. What do I have to say about Ava? Man, I can't say Ava's a bad character because when we actually get to see Ava as a character, she's kind of badass and has yet still has that like motherly aspect for her. Like she cares about Commune, she ends up caring about Nozomi, she sacrifices herself for Nozomi so that Nozomi could live. Like once again, having this aspect of like almost like a motherly naturing kind of character, while also kind of like when she has her own agency, uh while still kind of being like this badass, like kind of like badass warrior sort of person, sort of thing, or someone who's meant to be a warrior, but like she doesn't want to be a warrior. She just wants to live in peace, be like this motherly figure. But it's detracted by like all like but when she gets lobotomized though, it's and that's what bothers me a lot when she has her agency taken away from her. But even the Ava route, in all honesty, you know what? Ah, man, I don't want to fucking bump her down. I'm already putting her under Gaku. I feel like a lot of Ava is wasted potential. Because even in the Ava route, I think it's bad because it just rushes through it and kind of boils down Ava to being Takumi's like girlfriend slash lover. Which is a shame because there's a lot more to her character there, and that's the only time we get to see her interact with Commune, and even then it just feels like Commune gets sidelined in that, and that's just fucking insane. That's an insane idea to do. And honestly, it's just a shame. I just feel like Ava was poorly utilized. There's a lot of character to her, but she's just poorly utilized. Like once again, I feel like with her taking in Commune, like how her relatives took her in and kind of like parented her, is like her paying forward, like the kindness that was shown to her to Commune, that sort of thing. And I think that's neat. But like once again, between the lobotomies and like once again the Ava route just kind of like underutilizing her, it just I can't really place her any higher comfortably. Such wasted potential. All right, we're starting to get to like, oh boy. Oh wait, what? Okay, hold on. Let me put Ava there. Could any amount of writing fix Ava? Let Ava have her agency and don't turn her into Takumi's boyfriend in the Ava route. I feel like that could save her. Like let Ava just be a character and be herself and have her own agency. I feel like she has enough to her character where it's possible, you know. Veshness. I don't feel comfortable putting her in S tier. I feel like Veshness Root did a lot for her character with her wanting, like, once again, she also has this form of wanting a community where she wants someone to like fight alongside with or like walk alongside her, but also still having like this, like having her own ambitions and going through any lengths to like to go to, you know, achieve them, essentially, which makes her a really compelling antagonist. And also, it's kind of interesting to see her act as an antagonist in a way where she takes away the agency of Last Defense Academy in a way where whether it be like killing her own subordinates for more power, which also like kind of takes away whatever, getting stronger, but also possibly whatever lessons we can learn from like I believe the paragons and what each of them mean is probably tied to like a theme in the story that we can learn, that sort of thing. And whenever we take in or absorb one of those themes, that's kind of the theme of the route. But like I can't like I feel like the amount of like fucking scenarios and the amount of like time we played the game, playtime we played the game, makes it almost impossible for me to coherently right now kind of look deeper into each of the characters and say, oh, this character, when we absorb them, we learn this aspect of the thing. Like, you know? Anyways, I do feel like Veshna serves as an awesome antagonist overall, even though like in some of the other routes outside of like the further we get from second scenario and Veshna's route, it kind of just feels like we're repeating, you know? But like once again, Veshna's did surprisingly humanize her with like, her not being able to kill her mentor due to like once again the teachings, which, once again she throws away, but like she still stubbornly also believes, like, you can't really shake that off, like that interesting contradiction to her character. But also like how she essentially sacrifices her dream for like, I guess the bond she had with Takumi. I know it feels like I made the same complaint with Ava earlier with like, us kind of like glossing over the fact that like she kind of becomes Takumi's girlfriend or love interest, whatever, you get the idea there. But I feel like the other ending is what like really helped to humanize her as well, And there's still like that element of her having her own agency, whereas in Ava, both of them just lead to her with Takumi. I don't know where to put Karuwa. I don't think Karuwa. I'll just put it in DLC. We'll put it in E. I would be interested to see if there's ever a Karuo route or whatever in the future for DLC or something where, I don't know, we get to learn more about Karuwa. I feel like Karuwa is just Nozomi again. Because once again, as we've seen in the backstory with Takumi in the second scenario, like he kind of just imprints Nozomi after seeing her once, and then like Nozomi kept talking to him over and over again, and that kind of built up the image of Karuwa. So Karuwa is just Nozomi again. It would be interesting to see if there's ever a route. Doesn't even need to make sense or whatever completely, where like we get to see Karuwa and how she's different from Nozomi. Because we do see how Nozomi is different from Karuwa, but I feel like Karuwa's screen time is so short that I can't really uh say anything about her. Same thing with the Takumi's mom and dad, I suppose. Like I feel like the mom is just sort of there. Since I'm talking about Karuwa, that mod is now available for download. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there was that mod. Shit. I don't know. I'd want to see how it would be tackled officially, but like I don't know if I'm going to play that one on stream or off stream, but like I don't think it would affect the tier list at all, if I'm being completely honest with you. The commanders. All right, let's get this over with. They're just sort of there. Most of them are there. I feel like Adam Matthew kind of has a little bit more to them. Okay. They do serve their purpose well. They serve their purpose well, but there's not really much I could say about them. I just remembered that there it is. I'm just gonna put them all in fucking C tier. They all serve their purpose well, but like I feel like there's not really enough characterization, even with Veshna's route, to where I feel comfortable with putting them in B tier. They're fine. They kind of like serve their purpose, you know. Dao Shaw is also kind of interesting in a way, where he's kind of like the secret boss, paragon of warfare, that sort of thing. But like, oh wait, this is just a repeat character. But I do feel like they all serve their purpose in a way where every time we absorb one of them, we kind of like take in a theme within ourselves, and that kind of led to SF where everyone can survive, maybe. Like basically learning lesson after lesson, learning more about like the world through like the paragons of like whatever they are, that sort of thing, and taking in their traits or taking in their themings, which will affect the root. But like I feel like the fucking game is way too big for me to articulate it properly right now. But I do feel like that's kind of like what symbolization they kind of serve with every time we absorb them and fight against them. You know what? Hold on. Let's pause stream for a minute. I gotta go use the restroom real quick, and then we'll continue the tier list. Be right back in a second. All right, sorry about that. Had to step out. I just really had to use the restroom real quick. I'm doing nothing but talking this stream. So like, been drinking more water, obviously. Also, it doesn't help them like wearing a jacket over their hoodie, so I'm feeling extra hot. So like, don't want to get dehydrated. Anyways, let's continue here. Eh, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of just repeat character, isn't it? In terms of like Moko or like Disguise Moko, like there's not really much I could say here about this. Oh yes, commune. I was not honestly not gonna lie. Every time commune shows up, low-key kind of a fucking treat. It's kind of a treat. And every time like she shows up and we do work with her, not gonna lie, she's low-key kind of a goated character. But I don't want to put her in goated because I feel like she's not in enough routes and she's underutilized in the SF route, obviously. Only getting a like passing mention with Ava. Kind of insane how I'm saying Commune as a character was utilized bit better than Ava. But I do feel like Commune as a character overall, every time she's in the story, she has her own agency, even despite her own youngness. She simultaneously acts like a kid, but yet also is a bit wise beyond her years. Through like the rebellion route, we see like how she's like leading the rebellion as someone who is technically not a paragon like everyone else, but has her own strengths through like being kind of like a wise woman and even sacrificing herself, willing to sacrifice herself in order to save Nozomi, who she kind of bonded with, as well as like when she does survive, she's helping like Takumi with trying to make peace with the humans and Phatorans, showing that it was always possible. But it's only possible now that the communication, is possible. But also in Killing Game route, she also has the sisterly bond with like Nozomi, willing to like be with her, live with her, kind of like as a sister, as new family after losing Ava. Still cares about Ava, obviously, even in Ava route, kind of having to be a bit more mature for her age, obviously, as Ava does like kind of stupid shit. But like, yeah, I feel like for when we see Commune, it's always like a little bit of a treat every time she pops up. Takugi. Okay, let's start. I don't know. I feel like a lot of Takugi, what holds me back from him, serves his purpose. I understand why he's in the story, but like, especially in terms of like, how do I phrase this one? With like having Takumi and SF route feel guilty, and the murder and not murder mystery, the slasher route, kind of that plot twist which was kind of interesting. But the issue comes in with like I feel like they did the main protagonist being the killer here better than they did in like the other game where they had Claire de Lune. But at the same time, once again, it's a separate character from Takumi. And when he goes evil, he does like the evil like voice, sultry, all sultry like and whatever. And like, oh, I'm so evil, kind of like a stereotype trope. I can only imagine people whose first route was the slasher route and how they feel. But like, I don't know. He's all right, I guess. He serves his purpose. Nozomi is kind of similar in that aspect. Nozogi, I should say. Also kind of mid. Mid, though. I feel like her plot twist made sense in hindsight, even though I was kind of blindsided by it because I was so focused on on the other one. But I feel like, once again, I feel like it's meant to like pull on Takumi's heartstrings where for like the reveal, especially when we do reveal that she was one of the gi, or she's possessed by a gi. Or like, when we choose not to, we almost get this comfort from the Nozogi before like ultimately being killed by her, which would kind of like it shows us another aspect of Takumi's character where he just kind of sacrifices where he's willing to kind of like essentially let everyone die just to protect Nozomi. Like, once again, serves her purpose. She's all right. As an antagonist, B tier. Okay, maybe not B tier. You know what, B tier or A. Hmm. I feel like she's not as strong as an antagonist as Veshness is in terms of like the anti-colonialism theme. But when we look at it from like basically second scenario and like basically rest of the game and not really like once again, Veshness is kind of like a consistent threat almost. Even though like at that point when we battle her, we have the skip battle thing, it kind of almost like makes her like kind of exist for like 5 seconds and then poof, we're done. I feel like Cactuagi is more of a threat in like the meta narrative slash like timeline sense of things, where she's like constantly a threat across many different timelines, and like clearly she's smart as a character, like very highly intelligent as a character, and yet sticks to her own principles as a gi with like creating like nesting grounds for like the male gi essentially in order to make more of our people, which makes sense, makes sense for the gi. But like, once again, I feel like once again she works very well as an antagonist for the SF route overall, as well as like I guess technically all the routes that SF kind of connects to. I, eh, you just exist. You just exist. I don't know where to put you. You existed for like 5 seconds and then died. What the fuck do I have to say about you? There's nothing I could say. Just Ehu. You belong in Ehu. Uh also Ehu for you. You kind of don't really. You got more screen time than fucking Commune in the SF route, which pisses me off. But like you're just one of the characters outside of it, I guess. You know what? Dao Shaw has that intrigue with how he knows, but we never got the answer to it. But how he knows about the curse cycle, because he also mentions it. But okay, you knew about the curse cycle and you foreshadowed that in Retsnom, and then you kind of showed up again and then helped us like lead down the path. You serve your purpose, but it's kind of like who, you know? You kind of are an NPC because you're just a repeat of Takumi's like guilt for killing Ava in the Box of Calamities route, and I got nothing to say about that. And you kind of serve your purpose as an antagonist in Killing Game route, and it's kind of hard for me to say anything really because like you're multiple characters at once, like Cactuagi, God knows who the fuck else with all the other ones, probably all Gi, all the Gi agenda, and then Takumi, and not Takumi, and then Ito. Like you serve your purpose in Killing Game, but there's not much I could say there. The Gi kind of exists. Retsnom. If we look at it through the lens of Darumi, I feel like you serve your purpose. Actually, you know what? Let me bring the Gi here up here, actually. You serve your purpose as well with Cactua Gi after being defeated. You're kind of one and the same. You're almost a repeat character. You're a repeat character. Never mind. You go back. You go back to the repeat character. Because you're basically just it depends on who one of these fuckers. Commune needed more routes than just 3. Yeah, I do agree. Strongly agree. Commune needs to actually be able to interact with Ava more. Her actual mother. If it once again, Retsnom does kind of serve their purpose in the story with like either being a mindless thing that eats everything around it, or once again, kind of being this tragic creature where it constantly consumes knowledge, even consuming people, becoming those people with like the Rumi and all that, before ultimately, taking their own life when they realize the truth of their existence. Which is an interesting aspect to it. I do feel like the Retsnom overall is more interesting than the Gi. Gato, Gato, I'm assuming. Yeah, I'm gonna put you in like F tier. Needs better writing, heavily underutilized. There's that intrigue of like the conspiracy route where there's like an anti how do I phrase this? An anti Exodus Project faction, which is interesting. Like people who are against the colonizers who are technically on the colonizer's side, if that makes any sense. Which is interesting. And it parallels how the rebellion is kind of like, once again, against the heroes, the main like the heroes of like the heroes of Atoran in a way, especially Veshna specifically, which is fascinating. But like as an idea and concept, but I feel like conspiracy route goes too fast and like all the information there is just so muddy, especially with like the fake backstory thing with the red pill blue pill thing symbolized by the envelopes and all that, and it just leads to fast bad endings, and even then it just feels aimless, and maybe that's the point of it, that it feels undercooked. But like yeah, I just feel like Gato overall is just undercooked as like a character, and like same thing with like the conspiracy route, just undercooked as a scenario, unfortunately. You also serve your purpose as kind of like being, I don't want to say foil, almost a reflection of Ito, and where he was at during the Goodbye Ito route, where he feels like, where like she feels like she won't be forgiven for like betraying her family and friends by like leaving whatever safety they were in. Similar to how Ado was kind of like how he left his own group because he betrayed them and all that, even though they didn't want him to they didn't kick him out, they just left, that sort of thing, and how he wishes he can comfort her, but like knowing how much of a hypocrite he would be if he did, considering his situation. But ultimately, with him ending it, like choosing to sacrifice his own life for her and like the rest of like whoever was with her, I feel like was kind of a sweet moment. Once again, I feel like you serve your purpose. You're fine. The sword. The sword just goes there. I know the sword has like one voice line in Romance Route where they approve of us and say, with like being with Koshika and like, loving her and being with her. I know the sword is there for that, but like, what can I say about the sword? And yep, that's it. That's my tier list. Yep. Not really much I could say about them. I do feel like I had like a lot of fun with 100 line here. Um, Not done yet. We're still gonna do the scenarios. I'm just trying to share it. Funny how Ima's the only character that no amount of writing can save here. Yeah, you gotta like completely rewrite his character from the ground up. I think you need to rewrite his character, not from the ground up, but like rewrite a part of his character, you know? Shoot. If I save. Hold up, give me a minute here. JST. On the internet. All right. If I click save, And then click download image. All right, we're gonna download the image and we're gonna post it real quick, and then we're gonna um. What do you mean? All right, hold on. Give me a minute here. Trying to see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, there's the creative tier list. Can I? Okay, well that doesn't work. But can I export the image? I can't see it. Uh-oh. Is it actually downloading or is it not? Nope, I don't see it. Hold on, give me a minute here. I'm trying to see if I can like. Okay, I don't know why this is not working. Crap. I don't know why this isn't working all of a sudden. I'm trying to like download the image, but like, uh-oh. Oh no. Uh-oh. Is my Wi-Fi screwing up or nope, it's just that. All right. Hold on, let me show you what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to see download image. Oh, so now it wants to work. Now you want to gaslight me. Now that I opened up stream, suddenly all of a sudden you want to start working and make me look fucking crazy. All right, thanks. Cool. Oh my god. All right. Anyways, nope. All right. Guess I'm just gonna share it all over on the Discord real quick and then share it over on Twitter and then share it over on. Sorry, IDK found it. Off topic, ADHD kicked in. IDK found Two Beast or Not Two Beast. No. Like you guys say this like I didn't say yesterday that I played the game only to like win a $200 bet now. It was a $100 bet at first, but then double or nothing with the Japanese version of the game. Uh like I was getting paid to play that game by my friend. Like come on. But yeah, all right, let's upload the tier list. I have no idea where it was saved to. Okay, there we go. Boom. 100-line tier list. Boom. All right, there we go. It's there. It's there. We see it. There we go. And then we're gonna pull up the Twitter real quick and then just post it there. Oh no. Let me see real quick. Is there anywhere I'm forgetting to post it? Oh, right, YouTube community post. All right, let's post it on the YouTube community post real quick. I don't think I need to open up a whole thing for this, right? Okay, cool. Let's go YouTube. Oh, shit. Sorry, that was like my clipping from earlier. I don't know if you guys heard that. Give me a minute here, give me a minute here, and image, find it. Downloads again, and all right. Boom, done. We're done. We're finished with that one. Anyways, I'm gonna just put that down for now, and put this down for now, and put that down for now. All right, posted. Posted. Now we only have one last tier list to do, and that is the scenarios. That is the characters. I mean the scenarios. There we go. Which is S, A, B, C, D, F, and delete from this game. Honestly, I could be wrong. We're gonna go through each of the scenarios one by one. But like, I don't think there's any route I would say I would delete necessarily. Maybe rewrite, but I wouldn't delete. But before we get into that, actually, I think I was originally planning on doing our break during between the tier list. So let's go on break now. Let's go on a quick 10-15 minute break. Just to like, go ahead and stretch, grab some water and all that, just to like, decompress a bit and also like, let my mind rest a little bit after like the rambling I did with the characters. Let's just do that. Let's just do that real quick. All right, 10-15 minute break. I'll be right back. Let me start some music in the background actually while I do that. Let's see if I still have the 100-line song. Do I still have the 100? Yep, I still do. All right. Is it going to play? Let's see if it plays. Let's just go on a quick 10-15 minute break. All right, there we go. Yep, there it is. All right, quick 10-15 minute break. Be back soon. Go ahead and stretch your legs, grab a snack, grab some water. I'll be right back. Okay, crazy song for me to come back to. End of a Peaceful Life. Whew, all right, let's finish off stream. All right, this is just a just chatting stream essentially at this point. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, I guess we'll take each of the routes in order. I feel like Route Zero. Let's start with Route Zero. I feel like Route Zero, the whole point of Route Zero was kind of setting up the like mysteries of, well, I guess mostly second scenario, but also setting up like what the game was about overall. I think it was a serviceable start. It did feel kind of very much like a Kodaka story. I wouldn't be surprised if Route Zero was. Let's see. First scenario, oops, shit, not the gallery. Am I able to see the writers of each? Kodaka, yeah, that tracks. I feel like, once again, I feel like it was pretty good. Oh my god. Holy shit. Okay, I was about to say, did they do everyone in the 100 days? I feel like, once again, it did feel very much like classic Kodaka type story. But also, shit, no! But also, it was like kind of just setting up what the whole game was about. But I feel like, once again, it was mostly strongly emphasizing another, what I'm assuming is a Kodaka route. Yeah. It was mostly foreshadowing what was going to be the real, like, kind of like, the real true story that what we wanted to talk about in the 100 line, which is like anti-colonialism and like basically like the like consequences of war and how war can tear like people apart. And I feel like that's like something that like second scenario does like very well in following Route Zero. I feel like second scenario is like the route that feels like it's most closely tied to Route Zero, where Route Zero kind of sets up like all these questions and like that would lead into like the actual game itself while still being kind of like its own kind of story before ending ambiguously before we restart back to the start and then get into like the real game. And then second scenario best follows Route Zero with giving us the answer, pretty much all the answers that we wanted from Route Zero, while also like kind of like giving development to like a lot of the characters as well that kind of needed to be there as well for what would lead eventually to the ending of second scenario. Doesn't the second scenario technically have two endings? Oh, is Reset considered its own? Shit. Well, I guess if we're looking at the terms of like second scenario, I do feel like once again, it is very much the strongest in trying to tell like once again an anti-colonialism type story. While also like deconstructing colonialism with this sci-fi aspect of it, with how like and while also like being like kind of this anti-war sort of thing as well. And kind of showing that like once again people don't want to like be in constant conflict, and if it were possible like they would rather like it is possible that they could live in peace. Reset, I feel like, is also a good follow-up to that. Of course, it doesn't hit as hard emotionally as second scenario to me, but I do feel like it's still closely tied to Route Zero. It's still closely tied to those colonialism themes, where instead of like choosing to do, I guess at this point, the right thing and saving the people of the planet, we let them die, and then we just start kind of like a new society, which is kind of what colonialism is. I feel like that is like theming wise a good follow-up for second scenario, but I feel like emotionally speaking I feel like second scenario uh follows up the Route Zero better. Goodbye Ito, honestly another A tier one. Once again, as I mentioned before, I feel like we learned a lot about Ito through seeing like his perspective from that point of the story, where once again he is, even though he, due to his cognitive disorder, he can't get close to other people because like he sees them as like grotesque monsters. And then through that first impression and through like learning more about humanity and what they've done to the planet and all that sort of things, it led to this like visceral hatred of them. In spite of that, he's also one who wants to like still have like a community and be accepted for himself and have like his own friends and all that, and that is a part of his nature too. It shows us like once again like how far he's been like once again it also emphasizes once again how far he'd be willing to go for like his beliefs as well. He even like once again, in a bittersweet way, he has like false memories implanted into him from Sire, so that he can remember them in his final moments, or like of like being a part of like the group, because that's all he ever wanted. He wanted to be a part of the group, even though he kind of loathed and hated them all, mostly due to the impression his cognitive disorder gave to them. He still loved every single one of them as well, especially Takumi. But like you get the idea there. I feel like this was a good pro tag swap kind of route, where we did actually get to learn more about another character's perspective. And also, I think it was a cool gimmick that we kind of like, instead of making the screen all black, we kind of like blacked out most of the parts, to emphasize how he's blind and all that. I think this is a pretty neat follow up. Rebellion route. Okay, I feel like this is also another great one because once again, it also proves once again commune development, but and also proves that can like kind of stick around with the group, but also kind of like gives us our own freedom. You know what? Actually, you know what? Yeah, I do think it's actually kind of peak. I think these ones are actually kind of peak, actually, with emotionally resonant endings as well. Now that I think about it. I do feel like Rebellion kind of shows that humanity and like the Fatorans could live in peace, even though it is a bit optimistic. And like even if there is like even in when Nozomi lives and there's still wars and all that, and it's not as peaceful as if like Commune lives, she's still fighting her own war her own way by raising the next generation to like fight against the hatred and that the whole war has caused, and trying to bring everyone together, that sort of thing. I do feel like Rebellion Root also shows us like the Fatorans are more than just like mindless monsters, or the just blindly supporting Veshness with the rebels themselves, and with all of them kind of like being together. Rebellion was kind of rushed due to it being short. I mean, you know what? You're kind of right. I feel like it's strong for what it is, but I do wish we could have like got to live through it a bit more, I think I'll bump it down the grade. It did feel a bit rushed, but I feel like thematically and emotionally it was fairly resonant. Ava route. I'm sorry. The one route for Ava that we get, the one route for Ava that we get is kind of boiled down, where she has her own agency and stuff, is kind of boiled down to her, with her kind of losing, I don't want to say losing her agency like literally, but kind of emotionally. How do I say this? It feels like they boiled down Ava's character from being this almost motherly, nurturing figure who was unfortunately born to be a warrior in this world, even though she didn't want to be. And she wanted to, like, live a peaceful life with, like, her daughter Commune and pay back the kindness that she once received from her, like, relatives who raised her. And also kind of being somewhat self-sacrificial, trying to show what, like, a true mother would do for her children. In her sacrifice in the killing game route for Nozomi. Kind of boils that character down to Takumi's girlfriend, it feels, or wife, or whatever. And both of the endings are like are just kind of disappointing, really. Honestly, once again, if I were to rewrite the Ava route, I wouldn't mind Takumi still being with Ava, but I feel like if we're gonna develop the romance between them, we can't just rush it, and we need to actually, show them getting closer together, and also show the bond between Ava and Commune. And once again, since Commune is the leader of the rebellion, have like, I don't know, we could still mix the rebellion here as well, and then for like the Eva ending where we fight against Veshness, just we could have Commune come with us, whatever. Maybe she's in or out of the rebellion depending on whatever timeline bullshit it is. But honestly, Ava's route is just disappointing, really. Multiple Itos is also a pretty fun route, and also shows us another side to Ito, as well as kind of shows us how Takumi could also kind of end up becoming almost corrupt in a way. It could be Ito's influence or like external influences, and kind of like how almost hypocritical Takumi is as well. Like I feel like the multiple Ito route, I am heavily biased, was fairly entertaining for what it was. Serial Battles route. If getting pregnant at one ending of the route was weird because she was already a mother. Yeah. Well, I guess it was more of a becoming biological mother thing, but it's dumb. I remember being thoroughly entertained by the multiple Itos route, as it once again shows us like the battle between Takumi and Ito for their philosophies, as well as like just like, giving us more characterization for both of them. Serial Battles route. I get that it's meant to like emphasize like the rejection of Shion, and if you reject Shion, and just kind of like dehumanize him in a way, or not humanize him, choose to refuse to humanize him in a way, it kind of makes life harder for you in a way, because like, and you get punished for it in a way, while also foreshadowing the time fax machine as well that is an SF route. But like it goes on for way too fucking long with the battles. I'm sorry. And then conspiracy route, I've already talked about it. It's an undercooked route. It happens. We go through it way too fast. And I guess the information was always meant to be kind of muddy that we get from there and contradictory for what we learned in other routes, but it's just kind of blink and you miss it. It's kind of a boring route, and it's just really, really like the idea of a parallel between the Praetorians with like the rebels and like the um and the heroes, I suppose, or Veshness's faction versus the Exodus faction and the anti-Exodus faction would have been interesting, because it would also like show that both sides aren't necessarily black and white, or like, oh, we want to destroy the other side 100%, or oh, our side is 100% right. It adds nuance to the story is what I'm trying to say here. And also, it could probably tie, if the conspiracy does exist, it could tie to how Ito ended up the way he did. Because if Nigo, aka Goto, Goto existed within Nigo and just needed to be awakened, then that means Ito could have been like, Ito in his pod could have been like, tampered with to make him hate humanity instead of love humanity. Like, I feel like in Reset, we kind of got a hint to what he was supposed to be. Once again, we know that the core of his character is like, kind of like having this sense of having this sense of community. And I feel like, he would have been the type of like, once again, best friend trope where he kind of built up that sense of community, as we kind of see in like coming of age in a way where he pretends to be lobotomized. You get the idea there. But instead, because of that, like, possible sabotage, this is a theory, Ito ended up being Ito. It's just an undercooked idea. Casual route. I hate it. Casual route has the same issue with Serial Battles route, where it goes on for way too long, and the endings basically is just ripping off the Matrix again. Like conspiracy route with the red pill, blue pill thing. Well, literal red pill, blue pill in this case. As in the other one, it's just the um envelopes. I feel like it's meant to be almost, once again, I feel like this is almost punishment for, I forgot what decision leads us to casual route again. Can I check, actually? I want to double check and see which one. leads us to casual route. What decision leads us to casual route again? Okay, stop destroying Nigo. Oh, right, because everyone questions it. I feel like the purpose of it is just kind of like once again, in choosing to ignore, like trying to find out more information about the war and stuff, you get punished by being forced to go through this route. Where ultimately, in the end, you either choose to face reality or embrace fantasy and turn your eyes away from like the suffering and the war and the truth, essentially. I think that's fine. I feel like we need to take into account here as well, like what ending leads to where as well. Now that I think about it, is okay. Yeah, I mean we already remember that one. We already remember Goodbye Ito, Rebellion. Okay, multiple Ito's route. Yeah, okay. Let's see what's after that one. Box of Blessings route. Can you not Box of Blessings route? All right. What leads us to this decision? Oh, right. Executing Ava. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the Box of Blessings route is kind of mid, not gonna lie. Because I can barely remember it. I just remember there being like times where like it's just a battle for MacGuffins essentially. But also like it feels like it gives Shoma a chance to shine, I suppose, and giving everyone else kind of like this, kind of like I don't know how to phrase it. Kind of like giving them all a goal to work together towards, I suppose. And it kind of gives Gaku the same thing, but it kind of detracts from it a little bit with the harem thing. But it just feels like the route should not have been 8 endings, or should not have gone on for this long, for as long as it is, because it feels very repetitive for everything you do in that one. Not much I could really say about that one. I know I'm kind of speed running through this here. Calamity route, Box of Calamities route. I did go through all the other routes before this, like a few days ago, by the way, so I could formulate a actual opinion, like a solid opinion. Box of Calamities route. I mean, it does help foreshadow the gi, but it also kind of feels a little mid. But okay, you know what? I'm gonna. I don't know where to put Box of Calamities. I feel like would I trim down Box of Blessings by a ton? I would at least try to vary it a bit so it's not as repetitive, because it feels repetitive. I think I'd put Box of Calamities route maybe a little bit above. I don't know. Blessings, in all honesty, because I do find it interesting the fact of like once again, it kind of gives us Cactua Gi as an antagonist, as well as like helps foreshadow the Gi as an antagonist, but also gives us like the internal guilt that Takumi has with killing Ava. I feel like that this did give us quite a bit more than Box of Blessings, but it still does end in tragedy, it still is very tragic with like how Nozomi will end up dying off or will end up killing the others, and how all the murders go, and how Takumi kind of goes down this spiral of insanity because he's also dealing with his own thing. I feel like this route has a lot going for it in terms of like, just things constantly kind of happening, and also not constantly happening, but how it could also vary a lot as well, which is why I would put it a little bit higher than Box of Blessings. But and I could see how it's necessary in creating Cactua Gi, which is important for SF route. But like yeah, there's not really much I can really say about that. Cult of Takumi. Ooh. Oh man. I'm somewhere between rewrite corner and barely tolerable, surprisingly. And here's why. I'm gonna put it in barely tolerable, and we'll see if I can talk this out. I feel like once again, it's meant to kind of be like a punishment for killing off Takamaru, while also like while also like kind of showing how Takumi can end up being corrupted, and seeing the hero that you're playing as kind of become this villain is very interesting aspect of it. And also when you try to like take it back, at that point it's already too little too late, and you also get punished for not just going all in on it, with Nozomi dying off and then Takumi having his agency taken away and being stripped down to like this idea, this idol, which once again, I like those ideas. It's just the journey to get there. And also all the borderline fetishistic stuff that just kind of being there. And it just feels like, it kind of runs on a bit too long on that aspect and doesn't really focus as much on the more interesting aspects of that roots that hold it back. Personally, if I were to rewrite it, I would I get why we would need to keep the reward stuff, but I would tone it down by like a lot and try to focus more on the building up of a cult, like almost a religion for Takumi, and how he's slowly getting more and more corrupted, or how he's trying to like I guess last minute try to like do a last minute heel turn, but it's already too late. I would focus on those aspects of it. Veshnes route, choosing to sacrifice Tsubasa instead. um Honestly, I think I'd put it in good. I feel like we did. I wouldn't put it in great. I would just put it in good. I wouldn't put it in great. I would just put it in good. Because like once again, it gives us a lot of like characterization for Veshnes and a lot of the other commanders, especially with Adamakyu. I feel like Adamakyu, outside of like Veshnes and Daoja and Ava, is probably one of the more fleshed out commanders, and how they're not all just one like seamless group like working together, that sort of thing. And those aspects of it are interesting, as well as seeing Sabasa's growth as a character in like I guess ending 43, was it? Which one was the one? No, 44 it was. And how Veshnes could even, in a way, change. Wanting to, like, okay. Well, not really change, but how she always kind of wanted to, like, okay, how do I explain this? We got to look at ending 43 in order to explain ending 44. Where, like, she wants to have someone who can, like, in a way, kind of challenge her with this, with her own philosophy, with her own, like, or have someone like stand alongside her with her philosophy no matter what, like that sort of thing. Like she doesn't want to be alone and wants to have her own like person she could trust at the very least, even if it's just one person. And she feels like she can't have that because like even with her own sister, with Ava's not a warrior like her and is not as determined to win this war as her, or like doesn't have the same philosophy as her. And like in spite of everything, she's like alone. And then ultimately in ending 043, once again, she kind of has her philosophy proven wrong where winning would like, give her satisfaction, but she just feels alone. But like in ending 44, I feel like it does almost boil her down to like Takumi's lover again. But I feel like Veshnes had her own enough of her own agency in the story and in the route where I could feel like it's believable enough. Not believable enough, but acceptable, I suppose. Coming of age. Okay, this is gonna get me heavily judged, actually. But I do think coming of age is a great route when you look at it through the shonen lens, but also deconstruct it through like second scenario and what the story is actually about. Because like it is for sure the perfect deconstruction of shonen what the shonen genre is like, and how it kind of glosses over like more serious topics, and like is like don't think about it, don't think about it, and how things are like fucked up, like with why they had to kill off Ava, why they had to kill off Shoma, with Ava being like literally lobotomized soldier and just stuck with us, and then lobotomized what the fuck was it? Lobotomized Shoma. No, but not lobotomized Shoma. With Shoma also following her into death because like kind of showing empathy to the Photorans, and you can't have someone who has empathy towards the Photorans. And then Ito, once again, kind of like, deconstructing how it wasn't really him we were with. We tried to lobotomize him like it was a good thing when it's not really, you know? But it also like really does, even though it ends in a happy ending, and through sacrificing like once again, it's filled with contradiction with sacrificing Shion, but not sacrificing Nozomi because we love her, and I feel like that's kind of the point. It's meant to be hypocritical, and once again, it's like deconstructing and forcing the 100 line into the shonen genre, and it may feel ill-fitting, but I feel like that's the point. Joshua, remember how Kotaro Takumi freaked me out with those CGs of Ava, Kiyoshika, Ito, and Nozomi? Yeah, you're right. But at least it made me feel something other than nothing or disappointment. Retsnam, another great route. Oh wait, would I put great? It's pretty goated. You know what? Fuck it. Bias is showing. Goated route. It made Darumi a fucking three-dimensional and likable character, and even made the idea of like an alien thing invading someone's body outside of like the gi very interesting. I like the Retsnam route. I love it. All right. It gives Darumi like lots of development. It also tackles like Takumi's like kind of survivor guilt with like not survivor guilt, but like guilt that he has with like letting everyone at the second campus die, save Nozomi because he wanted to save Nozomi, but also tries to like have it so he tries to redeem his character so he can find any way to like bring him back in order to like save him and all that, but also has him notice like after getting to know Darumi that Darumi's changing because like she's becoming a Retsnam and all that. And even in like choosing to not have Retsnam um be born inside a host, we see like Takumi's kindness in killing Darumi and even doing as she says, even when it's not really her fault. To bring her some last minute comfort before killing her off. Which, once again, a lot of Takumi and Darumi bonding in this one, which I was not expecting. This is a pretty goated route. I don't care. I do not care. I will die on this hill. I don't care if my bias is showing. I love Retsnam route. SF, we'll skip it and get back to it. I feel like that one we have to go last. Romance route? Not as bad as I thought it would be, but it just doesn't feel like it fits the story at all. I mean, we get to know Kurara, Kiyoshika, Tsubasa, and even Moko more as characters, while also kind of like once again it did poke fun at Takumi, or if the player tried to have all three of them at once, like it pokes fun at the character by saying what the fuck is wrong with you, and that was kind of funny as fuck. Or like if you're like full on Takumi playing as Takumi, and he has feelings for like I guess Nozomi at this point, it kind of encourages him to, go and confess his feelings, which was pretty neat. Or like once again the Moko comfort that she does with like Takumi when he crashes out. Or like I guess it's interesting that they varied Kurara's one between mask and maskless a little bit. I think it's all right. And I feel like I kind of like that little detail, even though, not really a big fan of Kurara, not my favorite character. but it shows that the romance route, in spite of it kind of being a bit out there, had a lot of care to it, but it's just that it's just not to my taste. I didn't care for it personally. There's a lot of interesting stuff here, but it's just, it feels like it doesn't fit the story. Slasher route. Oh man. Slasher. Romance route was so fan servicey. Yeah. Slasher route. Oh man. Honestly, all things considered, I feel like Slasher route had enough interesting ideas in it, and also was kind of like important in a similar way to like Box of Calamities route for like SF route. For like setting up the gi once again, but also kind of like, you know, showing like the threat of the gi while also kind of being almost this murder mystery slash zombie flick sort of thing, and kind of like, you know, leaning into those tropes and deconstructing those tropes. And it was like a overall kind of like interesting route in that aspect. And then it was an interesting gimmick with with the Nozomi protag swap that we now understand was still like the killer slasher was still Takumi, even though Takumi had died at that point. It was just Takumi from another timeline. But that was just it. It felt like a gimmick, and it just kind of like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, I guess. I feel like it didn't go as deep as like Goodbye Ito did, in my opinion. But like, with like trying to deconstruct Nozomi's philosophy or Nozomi's like you know, character necessarily, or at least like there wasn't really as much difference from her narration from Takumi, if I'm remembering correctly, which, you know, kind of breaks it down a bit for me. But like I had like a lot of fun on Slasher Root and how everything kind of ties together. I'm kind of reconsidering putting Reset. I don't know. Reset irks me with its ending. Not that it's a bad ending. I think it's meant to make you feel bad, but I feel like, you know, I'm gonna move Reset up one. Comedy Route. It goes on for way too long as well. Why the fuck did they put like all the attention on routes that shouldn't be as long as they should be, but none of it in Conspiracy? I don't even know what decision led us to comedy again. Oh, right, dodging. And then they just burn to death, and then there was no elaboration whatsoever, and then we get it's dumb. It's just a dumb route. It's not even that funny. A lot of the time. We had like the fish heads thing. I feel like the most funny route, the most funny thing that came from the image was this sticker I ultimately ended up making, where we just have the thumbs up to Kumi, and that was the only thing I like. And now I gotta rename it. Fuck, because the eye is gone. Hold on, that's gonna distract me if I don't fix it now. Let me fix it real quick. Let me see if I could have that. Okay, update. There we go. Fixed. But that's it. I feel like the funniest route I had in that one was when Takumi was forced to play the straight man, but then that's it. Like, otherwise, it just kind of felt like I was wasting my time. I wouldn't say it needs a rewrite necessarily, because I think that was the purpose of it, but like, it's just kind of boring. Killing Game. Fuck me. Also another peak route with how it develops a lot of its characters. I feel like, once again, I would. I don't know. I feel like comedy route you could remove from the game and nothing changes, personally. But, like, personally, I don't think it's bad enough to where it deserves the delete from game. Anyways, Killing Game route. Once again, interesting death game, kind of having that death game kind of genre thing, while also connecting the SF route in many ways, but also like with like the QB liquid and the rocket, of course, but also giving us a lot more Tsubasa development. And almost this Tsubasa route, the follow-up romance route for like the romance subplot we have with Takumi and Tsubasa, with her trying to like encourage him to keep going into the future after like he falls into the depression of killing, what we believe are humans or we're supposed to believe are humans, but also or Phatorans, whatever, you get the idea. But also kind of like having Ito and a lot of like the well, especially Ito when he's sponsor kind of call him out on some of his hypocrisies as well. While also kind of giving Darumi her own thing there. I don't think, Killing Game did as much justice for Darumi's character as Retsnam, but I feel like Darumi was still like an enjoyable character, and I do think she did deserve to be one of the survivors of of the Killing Game route. Um, Also a lot of Yugamu development as well, as making Yugamu very much likable, more likable character. I feel like that's a strong Yugamu route as well. The twins kind of feel like they were just there. And Nozomi and Commune's sister, once again, sister relationship is very cute. And I like how it got more of a chance to shine than in Rebellion route almost, if you get the idea. And Ava's sacrifice, once again, is another strong moment for like Nozomi and like deconstructing Nozomi's mom being a bad mom. I do feel like that was pretty strong. All right, now we're down to our last two routes, mystery and SF route. Mystery, okay. I feel like if you look at mystery through its own through like its own lens, I feel like it's a pretty strong like murder mystery type story, especially when we bring in like the Cactua Gi, and Cactua Gi as like a major antagonist kind of made her interesting. And I had like a lot of fun with it as well, and like the murder mystery aspects of it and trying to figure out who the killer is and like picking the killer obviously and picking the character via the characters was pretty cool, but I feel like it's bogged down a little bit by some of its bad endings. A little bit. It's not that the bad endings are bad, they just happen abruptly and fast. Also, the fucking moment where like the grenade was coming in about to hit Nozomi is just downright hilarious. It's just outright hilarious. It's funny as fuck, dude. While Claire de Lune plays is fucking insane. Like I cannot, that is such an unserious moment with how much Claire de Lune's overplayed and is played in that moment. I know it's supposed to be sad, somber, like oh no, but it just gives the vibe of yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation vibes. And also with the ending 100, of course, having everyone kind of survive, but it's actually people from the other timeline was an interesting twist. Do I have a problem with it being connected to SF route? If I have a problem with it being connected to SF route, I feel like I should have a problem with it. How do I describe it? If I have a problem with it, like connecting the SF route, I would have problems with SF route or like other routes connecting the SF route. For example, like once again, Box of Calamity, was it? Blessings? What, I think it's Calamity. Box of Calamity I would have issue with. But like I don't really have an issue with it being connected to SF route because it kind of is meant to emphasize SF route. Okay, if second scenario is the route, in my opinion, is the route that makes that follows the route 0 and is meant to tie most like strongly to the themes of anti-colonialism, essentially, that was being set up in route 0 in a way, and the mysteries of route 0. If that was its purpose, I believe that SF route makes all the other routes kind of matter in the story by pulling pretty much everything from them, allowing everyone to have that golden ending where they all survive happily ever after. But there are little things that do bother me once again. Like Ito and for example, a lot of the characters' development being being like kind of off-screened or like washed away in that route, but that's kind of okay since like once again we see the development in other routes anyways. So we could just assume they happen off screen, which is fine. And the whole point of SF route is to kind of leap between timelines as well and like tie all the other routes together. The main parts that bother me is Commune not really showing up, only getting mentioned in one of the bad ends. I say bad ends, but one of the endings. What else? Ava and Ito's agency being taken away from them by both of them being lobotomized, essentially. And once again, it does irk me a little bit that it's just, I mean, I love the development they do for Hiroko, and that's kind of like the strongest part for it, especially with how it, once again, ties all of her roots together, ties all the loose ends, like in it being Takumi in where is it, slasher route for when we protect swept in Nozomi, because it was actually SF Takumi and who died and not slasher Takumi, but also like many other things, like giving us the conclusion to murder mystery, and almost in a way giving us an out where it's like, oh, here's the golden ending. We got the golden ending. Everyone survives. When it was really just like people from the SF route and not really everyone from the mystery route. Band-aid solution for like a bullet hole problem. But yeah, once again, it does add a lot of closure to like a lot of the other routes and makes all the other routes matter, especially the gi. And once again, I do think it was clever how they reused the liver mortis codes. That once again, it was a red herring. It wasn't actually for an escape pod, but they do use it to stop the world from ultimately being destroyed or be like all the Photorans from being killed, which I do like. That is really neat. I like how they reuse that. I think that's neat. I just think that's neat how they reuse that. It's really cool. And it's pretty clever of them to use Shion to set the charge. Like Shion ultimately stopping himself, well, a clone of himself, once again, kind of pulling from the second scenario once again with the cloning stuff. From destroying like the Photorans. I do think that's neat. And it does end a little open-endedly where it's like, no, our story isn't over yet. It's just beginning. A new chapter of our life. Like, which is very Ukatoshi. I kind of do like the SF route in spite of its flaws. Personally, there are aspects of it I would rewrite, but I would keep it in peak. I do have issues with it, but like I feel like that some of the other stuff is so strong that it keeps it in peak. But I would rewrite it in a way to where it's like everyone knows about the time loop still, but they figure it out slowly. And they figure it out in their own way. Like they slowly remember stuff from other timelines too, like Hiroko and Takumi did. And then they remember their development from other timelines and change that way. And then they have more agency and help a bit more. Although they do help quite a bit. Especially in the golden ending, the real golden ending of the SF route. IDK comes back. What did I miss? Pretty much everything. But yeah. No, Takumi is in uh D. This I'm doing on the nets. Save that, and I don't think I can export the image actually from here. Can I? Nope. I'm gonna have to download the image so I could post it. But yeah. Once again, my opinions may change, but like right now, this is kind of like what I'm feeling. Am I fine with characters not knowing about Takumi being a time traveler in SF or like Hiroko as well? I'm okay with it, I suppose. I'm fine with it, but I feel like it's like, you know, I feel like it's a bit of wasted potential. I mean, they do learn about it before, but we don't really get to see how that information affects them as much because they kind of die off immediately afterward, you know? Because Cactuagi, like once again, I do love how second scenario, not second scenario, how SF route kind of like makes all the other routes matter, you know? I do think that's neat. That is a really cool gimmick and I feel like it's done fairly well. It's just some of the plot elements of it is what I take issue with. All right, where do I post this? Oh, right, YouTube community post. Oops. And with that, that is everything we have to do left for the 100 line for now. I mean, maybe in the future I could probably do a more in-depth discussion on each of them. I feel like the 100 line is a bit too big for me to like talk about in a stream like this. Like I feel like it's something I need an actual script for and I have to do it I have to talk about it in a similar vein to how I tackled my old Zoophobia webcomic review and stuff. But also like trying to think of like how I would even tackle it. Because I feel like there's a lot of like things I could do, such as tackling each scenario one at a time, tackle each character one at a time, talk about like the meta narrative with it, with like Death of the Offer, and like what the theming is and what each character, you know, living or dying, being absorbed or not being absorbed, like, you know, kind of means and all that. But once again, I do feel like I got the broad strokes of it. Like this is like very much a game way too big to do justice in like a tier list or like just like a short video or short stream if you were going to really get in depth with it. What do people see in Class of '09? It's just stupid. I think people saw almost the, I don't want to say raw realness of it, kind of like the dark comedy of it with like how it kind of deconstructs like a lot of aspects between like how do I describe it? N- Like society with like how they view women as well, like through like the male gaze and female gaze, and how a woman could survive in a like a society like that, while also kind of like, you know, saying how going too far with that same exact philosophy could cause harm to like the woman around you. I can't tell you what the fuck flip side is about. I feel like Class of '09, the first one, was like kind of a deconstruction with how like kind of being low-key sociopathic and greedy could protect the woman from like, you know, lecherous men who would want to take advantage of her. Because when like Nicole tries to bend herself over backwards for men, it ends with her like taking her own life. But on Re-Up, it also shows how that same philosophy can also harm the women around you who usually especially don't deserve it, really, and how like Nicole's like philosophy kind of like falls apart at that point. Flip side, I got no idea. Once again, I think it's meant to be like what Nicole looks like from the outside perspective. Like we're playing as Jekka, the closest person to Nicole, and seeing how she acts like, but that can't be the case because of like one of the roots not really having Nicole being as strongly in it. I don't know what Flipside would be about. I have no idea what the fuck the what the fuck the puzzle game is gonna be about. If 100 line was condensed down to a less bigger game, how would I feel? I feel like if it was condensed down to a less bigger game, essentially you'd just be playing one of the routes. But if it did get condensed down, I feel like some of the other, how do I even describe it. I feel like some of the other roots wouldn't even have their time to shine. Already, conspiracy root didn't have their time to shine. I feel like, but I also feel like other things like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like casual route ran for too long, and that time could have been allocated to conspiracy. Maybe I don't know. I feel like I can't imagine 100 line being shorter than it is. I feel like it kind of needs to be that. I mean, if you want to tell like a condensed story, the best way to do it is just do second scenario, and that would just be the main game again. But I feel like that detracts from the choice aspect of Takumi having his own when you do Route Zero again, or when you go through Route Zero and then do second scenario, like you know having a choice. I do feel like a lot of the endings could have been cut though, but because it just feels like they're filling out the quota for bad endings. But yeah, okay. As I was saying that, I finally figured out a little bit of like Class of '09. I feel like once again, Class of '09 is focusing on like once again societal dysfunction, dealing with trauma, and through dark comedy, like high school trauma with like like the type of people that are there. Like once again, Nicole's father took her own life, and like she's dealing with that, while also kind of dealing with like once again, there's people dealing with depression, substance abuse, bullying, survival in a toxic peer environment, pedos, that sort of thing, while also dealing with like misogyny through like abusive like dynamics, creepiness, societal misogyny that most of the female characters face from authority figures and other classmates alike, especially from the male characters, and this almost feeling of like nihilism with how some characters approach like severe real world issues with deadpan apathy and like dark humor as like a defense mechanism, which is the Cole's thing. Okay, IDK, you're just wrong. Sorry, IDK, you're just kind of wrong, actually. What do you mean you think men are getting treated worse than women? Okay, if you're talking publicly, maybe, how do I describe it? If you're talking like in terms of like, in like how people are it's easier to shit talk men than women because if you shit talk women it's like whoa, like that sort of thing with like public judgment, then I guess I kind of see the point. But I feel like men still have like a lot of advantages that women simply just don't have when compared to like the male peers. Like once again, it's more likely that like women usually, like if we look at the workforce specifically, are kind of like they have like this glass roof kind of thing where it's harder for them to like uh you know um get up, like build up and like like a career and get to like higher paying jobs or like higher up in the workforce sort of thing, as well as like communication gaps with like men either like kind of like putting like kind of putting their own inputs over women in a way, or like men kind of sometimes stealing things from like women, whatever. And like this double standard that goes both ways, in all honesty, I feel like men and women have their own issues that they got to deal with, but I feel like they're also so different. They're also different issues. And overall, looking at history and looking at how things have been changing, which has things have been changing for the better for women, of course, there are still, I feel that like women still have like are still dealing with like issues today. Definitely not as much as they used to. Uh in terms of like, well, now they're being able to vote, but like that's like nothing at this point. That's like basic common sense, let women vote. But it's like, how do I phrase this one? Hmm. Like there's always going to be like people who are more conservative, or like even like people who are how do I phrase this one, like there's always going to be like bad men out there who would want to take advantage of women, is what I'm trying to say here. And like that in that aspect is still an issue, especially since, men typically also like support other men who, have like similar philosophies to them, which kind of continues the cycle, repeats the cycle, which we are working to make changes, of course. We can't like ignore the progression we've been making, but at the same time there's still that issue, you know and we need to change it. I don't feel, I feel like right now isn't in the fucking 100 line tier list stream, as well as like, you just kind of dropping it there, is really the best time for me to like try kind of describe it while I'm trying to riff here. Because like usually I would like, try to pull from examples, and like this is like something that you would have like in an essay or something. I try to do this more formally rather than like flying by the seat of my oversized clown pants. But I feel like this issue is too big for me to tackle in a stream, once again, similar to like the 100 line tier list. But yeah, we finally finished the 100 line. Let's go. Oh god, 64. How long is, it's not 64 weeks, I don't think necessarily. But like, cuz I did do like a stream that was multiple things, but 64 parts, 64 streams is insane. 64, we'll just say roughly 64 weeks. A year, a little over a year. It might be less than that, maybe a little under a year. Roughly a year of us playing this series, and now we're finally finished with it, unless they come up with DLC. I'm not planning on doing any of the mods right now, but like it's kind of insane, like how far we have come, and now it's finally finished. Kind of insane. Like I feel like I did get my money's worth on this game. Once again, I did pay for it full price for like a game, $60, but with as much content there is on there, and the fact that they have like 200 hours on the game right now, I feel like, over 200 hours, 264.5 hours on this game right now. I feel like, once again, I kind of got a steal for this. I don't think I would trade like any of the time I spent playing this game, doing every single route and all that, for like anything in the world, especially with how strong like second scenario was and SF route, and how fun SF route was, in spite of like, some of the things I wasn't really a fan of, that sort of thing. Joshua says, from the gameplay videos you've seen of the Karawa mod, sorry, it has some unique stuff happen that I would never see in the main game. I see. I'm assuming there will probably be flashbacks, right? I'm assuming there are flashbacks, probably, to like Karuwa and Takumi and what their life was like, maybe? And maybe the mom, and that's where we got the sprites from? I don't know. But yeah, if they do make DLC for this game, and there does end up being like an official Karuo mod, not mod, an official Karuo route, I would probably pick up this game again if people would want to see that. Because once again, this game is like just was a massive passion project with so many different routes and so many different like writing and all that. So much like writing put into it, so much passion put into it from like various different people. And I feel like, once again, it did kind of pay off in a way. Sure, there are some endings I could have done without, and sure, there were some routes that I could have changed. But I feel like my experience with this game is something I wouldn't trade anything for in the world with, It's not a long mod. It goes from day 10 to day 14. Wow, that is short. But yeah, once again, I'm probably not going to do mods because that opens up a Pandora's box of like me having to go back to Snoot Game and other games like that to and play their mods for stories as well. And I feel like I wouldn't be able to judge Karua's mod. I mean, it'd be interesting to judge it as like a fan work, I suppose, but I wouldn't be able to judge it necessarily, and it wouldn't affect my judgment on the main game itself because it's a mod and it's not connected to the game at all, outside of being like a mod made by fans. But I would love to support it. Like I would love to support it. Once again, Joshua, you could leave that. You could, if you could go over on the Discord and like leave the link to the mod if you want. And once again, if you guys are still interested in the 100 line, go ahead and support that mod. Like seriously, like I feel like that. Like I feel like the fact that people are making mods for whole new scenarios kind of just shows how much like how much of a grip this game has on its fan base, how gripping this game is, how I should stop using grip. Uh, how interesting this game is, and how it's like captivated its audience. But yeah. Anyways, I don't want to run this stream on for too long. We're already about to hit 3 hours when we were kind of been talking about nothing but dead air at this point. Especially since I gotta prep for this week's streams as well. Especially since I gotta do 5 of them this week of varying length. Anyways, this upcoming week, I'm gonna be posting the stream schedule tomorrow. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, thank you. I hope I continue getting your guys' support now that this series is finished. But yeah, as I was saying, right now, this week's stream schedule is looking like this: Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Admittedly, that might get pushed back a little bit, but right now it's 3 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to finish off Zenless Zone Zero. We didn't finish the story mode last Friday, so we're going to be finishing it on Tuesday. Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to be finishing The Amazing Digital Circus. We're going to be doing episodes 8 and 9 that stream. We might take a break between 8 and 9, and then, like, just finish off that series once again, and then I'll give my thoughts on it. And then, of course, on Friday, we're going to be doing, and Saturday, 3 p.m. Pacific time for both of those. I'm going to double check with Bray, but he said he should be available on both of those days for Danganronpa 2. We'll be dipping into Chapter 5 and probably getting halfway through the trial, like how we did last time. And then the next Sunday, it's still an open slot, just so you guys know. Once again, I have a poll that's open. It's on my YouTube community post, my Twitter, my Discord, and it's in the description down below for what we're going to be streaming next Sunday. Right now, Class of 09 Puzzle Showdown is winning, but like if you guys want me to play a different game, like that's on that list there, like Night in the Woods, Yet Another Killing Game, Doom, Life is Strange, Jackpot Crash Course, Yakuza 0, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Love Exalt, Decide for God, Higurashi, When They Cry, No Sleep for Kanamidate, Date Everything, Shoot an Order, Of the Devil, Dispatch, Iron Lung, Fears the Fathom, Amori, or like anything else. Once again, go ahead and vote in that poll where you still can. Because it's going to be closing this Thursday, and then I'll announce the winner. And then, of course, I'm still trying to hit that Twitch goal of 50 followers and the subscriber goal of 500 subscribers. Once we hit those goals, I'm going to host a stream event / gaming community event where we play either Among Us, Carnage, or Goose Goose Duck together. That will be a poll. I'm also keeping an eye on Deadly Trick, and if you guys have any other recommendations for games that we can all play together like that, go ahead and let me know in the suggestion box in the Discord, and I'll probably add that to the poll. I'll look at it and see if it's something that, we could all enjoy together. And then, of course, what else was I going to say? We'll be using voice chat for that. That's also over on the Discord, which is in the description down below or on my channel page. Trying to be more active on that Discord as well. We're having like some fun on there, Oh wow, I see that Joshua posted that one fast. But yeah, there's the Karo mod on there now, and IDK calling me out on the two. If you saw my rant yesterday, the two beast shit. And once again, I am trying to build it up by trying to include more stickers as well, but I can only have 5 of them because I'm not in Nitro yet. But yeah. Anyways, other than that, not much else I can really add onto that. Don't want to keep you guys for too long. And until then, don't mind me. I'm just some dude on the internet, and I'll see you guys next stream.